All right. Hello, everybody. Welcome. Come on in. Shalom to everybody. Peace, peace, peace. Let's see. Hold on. Hopefully, y'all are doing well. We got YouTube up and going. Trying to get Facebook finished and ready to go. And then we can get started. But hopefully, y'all are doing well. Appreciate your time today. So we're going to do Q&A today, which we try to do in the midst of these live sessions that we do so that people have questions, comments, or concerns, they can bring them up. And that's what we're going to focus on today. Let's see. All right, looks like we got Facebook ready to go. And I can bring up the podcast. We go a little longer on Sundays, so we'll be able to answer some questions today. All righty, looks like Facebook is ready. Get the podcast up and going. We can start. Thank y'all for being on. Appreciate you. So we're doing Q&A based off of the song series we're doing, the Song of Degrees, Psalm 120 through Psalm 134. We're excited. We're thankful. We're grateful. And so we'll get to those questions in a second. I already see some popping up, so that's great. Let me just get everybody on track, everybody on here so we can start together. Okay. Awesome. So we got all that going. Let's get the podcast going. So people can upload that later. All right. Thank you, everybody, for being on. May the words of my mouth and the meditation of mine heart be acceptable in Yahweh's sight. He is our strength and our Redeemer. And it's in His name, which is His authority, that we pray, praise, proclaim, project, and protect today's message. Amen. Welcome, everybody. Thanks for being on. We appreciate you as always. I am Pastor Kofi, Pastor Servant of Christ, where we are always changing lives one mind at a time by being a voice of the voiceless and speaking the unspoken. We give all praise and honor once again to Yahweh Elohim. We give all praise and honor to Him for my wife, the Honorable Maya, who lives a life that's able to be honored. You can check her out on TikTok, YouTube, her website, and Pinterest at Bloom and Flourish. Not A-N-D, the letter N, Bloom and Flourish. She is a healer, herbalist, chemist, and biologist by degree. The tincture of the month, or the natural medicine of the month, is still pain-free. However, you can get many different tinctures that deal with many different things that help you throughout your health journey, throughout this health walk, throughout this phase of life that you're trying to go through. And so we appreciate you. And thank you for spending some time with us today. To the moderators, the ministerial staff, SOC, if you agree with us, disagree with us, if it's your first time, one time of many, etc., we appreciate you for being on. Thank you so much for taking time out to chill out with us today. And once again, this is Q&A. So if you have Q&A about different things as far as our culture, beliefs, habits, even different things that are going on in the world, we'll try to extend to those places as well. If you want to talk law, how to help out what we're doing, how we can help out what you're doing, whatever the case might be, we're thankful and grateful. We'll get to it in the chat on the various platforms. Once again, if you're on the podcast, if you're on Facebook, YouTube, TikTok, we appreciate your presence today, and thanks for being on. Let's go ahead and get into it. But before we do, real quick, let me just say hello, as we always do to everybody. Shalom, peace, bonjour, je m'appelle Kofi, ça va? ¿Cómo está? I'm sorry. Mi nombre es Kofi, ¿cómo está? Namaste, ni hao, aku aba, descent. I see you, osayu, ohayo. Jambo, habari, mimi ni Kofi, nina Franco kutana na wewe. Shalom, like Kofi, mashalom khe. It is my pleasure to be able to speak to each and every one of you on this rising. Hopefully you're doing well, and we appreciate you. So thank you so much. We appreciate you so very much for being on. Hello to everybody. Hello, Sister Dawn. Hello to Q Deezy. How you doing? Hello to Sister Cynthia, to Lester, to Money Green, Brother Jermaine, Elion, Naya, Brother Naya, Shay, how you doing? Grand Rising to you. Hello, Dark Matter. Okay, you said what foods you're not to be eating. You're talking about from a biblical perspective. Or you're talking about in general. I mean, I guess everything is everything in that regard. How you doing, Nicole? I'll get to that in a second. How's everybody doing? Natural Beauty. Hello, Big Brother Thomas. Thanks for the amen and the prayer. Big Roy, Miss Pierce, Angelic Sky. I don't know. I don't know if I'm going to pronounce this right at all, but is it Array Uchi? Or Ariel Uchi? Ariel Uchi? I'm not sure if I'm saying that correct. I see your question as well. How you doing, Sister Marion? I'm glad we could be support and stand with you from where we were yesterday. How you doing, Yashir Israel? I don't know how, from a biblical perspective. Okay, how you doing, Big Cat? Big Cat G. So you're gonna have to help me out a little bit. Hold on, let me see. Because mi español es así, así. Pobre campa lo asusto el diablo. I comprehend a couple of them, but I'm missing a couple of those words in there. Give me a second, then I'll catch you. Let's see. Let's see. Pobre compa lo asusto. Asusto is messing with me for some reason. I don't know why. Okay, yeah, I still don't really comprehend. What is it? The scaring of the devil? I'm not sure. You're bilingual, yeah. So there's somebody said somebody put in there, pobre compa lo asusto el diablo. Asusto. He is insulting me. I thought so. Yeah, I wasn't 100% sure. I didn't want to go ahead and act like it was, but yeah, that's what they're doing. Okay, figured as much. But even to you, peace be to you. Uh, peace to you. I hope that you have a great day. What is it? Tiene un buen día. Tiene un buen día in Cristo. Right. Hopefully you have a great day in Christ. We appreciate you. I know Minister Shante, I see you. And so today Q&A. So first question I saw on the board was asking about eating habits. And so we shall go there. So what are some things that you can eat? Somebody else asked the question, what can you eat for back pain that doesn't have anything with a pig in it? Well, look for anything that's anti-inflammatory. I can answer that real quick off the back. So whenever you're dealing with any kind of pain anywhere in your body, you're dealing with basically it's not nervitis. What is it called? It actually is something similar to that, nervitis or nervositis, something like that. But basically, you're talking about inflammation of the nerves. So sometimes that in and of itself is problematic. So if you're having problematic a way to now, this kind of can be just masking the pain, and that's not dealing with it. I don't know exactly what your issue is, but if you're dealing with any kind of inflammation, right? Like if you're dealing with inflammation, or sometimes inflammation caused by too much mucus, all you're really doing is just saying, okay, I need to get rid of mucus or get rid of inflammation. So you could, for mucus, you could do something like portobello mushrooms. For mucus, you could do something like turmeric. Sometimes you can do cayenne pepper. Some people who are supposed to be masters in that domain, because that's not really my calling per se, but some people will tell you, and how you doing, Sister Deja, how you doing, Marcia? Some people will tell you to do things like try your best not to have too many, too much cayenne pepper. So maybe do cayenne pepper for a few days, but don't keep doing it over and over and over again. But that in of itself is going to help. Like, because if you have anything, like if you have, what I'm saying the wrong word, it's something like nervitis or something, but if you have like sinusitis, spinusitis, if you have arthritis, etc. Did I say sinusitis already? If you have any of these different itises that are going on, basically you're dealing with too much inflammation. Matter of fact, the itis, when people say they're sleepy and stuff, you can kind of sort of even see people eat things that kind of cause inflammation, and the body shuts itself down rather than deal with the pain, right? Tinnitus. Well, tinnitus may be a little different, because I don't know if, actually it could be. The itis part, yeah. Even the tinnitus, right? So you're dealing with a lot of times too much, plain inflammation or plain sometimes too much mucus in an area causing inflammation. So if you can get something that deals with inflammation, those herbs or those things that I just simply mentioned, and then start flushing your system on a regular basis, you're going to be able to get rid of a lot of those things, a lot of those symptoms, a lot of those issues that a lot of people have. You'll be able to get rid of that pain. Now, as far as what the question was, as far as food in general, where obviously there are people who want to stay away from pork or anything that's clove hooved. We want to stay away from anything that is, we want to stay away. Some people, it's not necessarily mandated by the Bible, but stay away from things that eat bad things because they are what they eat, which means you are what you eat. So you got to be careful with tuna fish nowadays. Tuna fish carries a lot of mercury. You got to be careful with catfish. Catfish, they obviously can be bottom dwellers. So if they're, depending on how they're farm raised, maybe a farm raised catfish may be better than a natural catfish because natural catfish try to eat anything and everything. That's how like a lot of people go catfish hunting and literally will go what they call noodling. They'll literally just stick their arms and then they know the catfish will try to eat their arms. Once they eat their arms, they pull the catfish out. Catfish will try to eat just about anything. If you can, depending on what type of deer, you might want to stay away from the deer, especially depending on how they're hunted. Here's something interesting. If you're eating beef, you want to have cows that are grass fed. Believe it or not, that's problematic. I don't know why people have decided to have cows or whatever that are feed them everything else except grass. They're eating chicken feed and all types of stuff. But you want to make sure that they have. You said, do catfish have scales? Most do. Actually, most that I'm aware of, I don't believe do, but they're still, bottom feeders. So I would just be careful with that. Obviously, shrimp, crab, lobster, they are literally like, if you go by evolution standards and stuff, you would say that they're the same family as like roaches and stuff, but they basically are the roaches of the sea or roaches of the ocean. So you kind of want to be careful, it's like especially lobster and shrimp. Shrimps can be crawdaddies, all that stuff that we learned to live off of because we needed to survive. Um, Catfish. I didn't think catfish did have it, but yeah, you're dealing with insects of the sea, so you probably want to just make sure that you're dealing with those things as well. You said you heard tilapia was man-made. Yeah, I've heard that too. I don't 100% know if that's true or not. I do believe though that most of the tilapia that people eat is in fact man-made. As a matter of fact, if you look at some of the tilapia, like some of the tilapia will be missing, the ones at the farm, especially, they're missing body parts and somehow still functioning. So they're more machine, like they got that saying, you can be more machine than man. They seem to be more machine than fish. So it is okay. Yeah, I've definitely seen enough evidence that they're definitely, if tilapia somehow somebody started off, as real, pretty much almost 100% of the stuff you see sold in the market is definitely man-made. I can tell you that much for sure. So we want to make sure that we're aware of those things. But in everything, really focus on things that are natural. If you can grow your own food, that's always your best bet. If you learn how to forage for food, that's always your best bet. If you can go out to something that's naturally created, which by law nobody can patent. So if you can eat things that are not patented, you're great to go. Also, when you go to the grocery store, be careful about the way things are labeled. You know how they have the numbers that you can type in if you do the self checkout, or the numbers that people look at on the fruit or whatever. If you see a number with a number 9, supposedly, it doesn't mean that it's still 100%, but you got to trust somewhat. But supposedly, the number 9 means that it's organic. The number 5 means usually that it's been sprayed with something. If you see it in there, so you'll see like a 5-digit pin or 5-digit code rather. If you see that number 9 at the beginning of the digits on there, it's supposedly supposed to be organic, or really nowadays as organic as you can hope for. But obviously, if you got seedless stuff like seedless bananas, it's pretty much everybody's eating those. Seedless oranges, for the most part, you're drinking or eating those. Seedless grapes, for the most part, they make it almost extremely difficult to find those at all, etc. 4s are bad too. Yeah, I'm trying to remember. We had this as part of our natural medicine 1 class, but I don't have the actual sheet and everything in front of me. But we actually have that as part of our class that we teach. And that's one of the things that we show people, even how do you read food when you go to the store? So different things like that. Also try your best to drink out of glass. Like I have some water here, but even in water that I buy, it's always going to be in glass. If it's in plastic, it's just basically because somebody's offered it or because I kind of need water and I have no access to any glass or whatever at the time. But try to drink all your water out of glass. Try to start your day and end your day with a copper cup. We used to even give these out, and in our copper cup, we had them. Basically, the copper cup. What I do is I drink out of it in the rising. I cover it up with something. I'm sorry. I drink out of it in the rising. I pour water into it. I cover it up with something. I leave it like that throughout the whole day. Then at the end of the day, I come back to the copper cup and I'll drink out of it again before I go to bed. I'll fill it up, cover it up again, let it sit while I'm asleep. Drink out of it in the rising again. You still can't find a copper cup anywhere? Let us know. Send us a text or something. Let us know. We'll definitely work on being able to send you something. I think we still have some left. But yeah, and you want to make sure you get, like, there's a lot of people who say it's copper cup, but it's copper plated or things like that. Make sure whoever you're buying it from that it's actually 100% copper. And even if it's a little more expensive, that's one thing that I would say as well when it comes to your health. Obviously being able to afford and knowing how to spend money and things like that will help. But if you have a choice in the matter, yeah, spend the extra $5, spend the extra $20 for something, spend whatever, because if it's real, it's worth it, right? If it's real, it's worth it. But so those are great questions. Get it started. So once again, though, I'm Pastor Kofi, Pastor Servant to Christ, where we're always changing lives one mind at a time. If you're just joining us today, we're kind of doing some Q&A regarding the Psalms. And but I mean, in general as well is fine. Questions that you might have. Somebody had a question on YouTube. I apologize. I'm coming to you. You asked about why, if with all the knowledge that you have, why do you still want to stay in America? And that's actually a pretty great question, I would say. Here's the deal for me personally. Hold on. Okay. I thought for a second I was on the wrong channel doing a live. I was about to turn this off, go to Kofi_43. But no, so one of the things that I look at and that I suggest that people think about, everybody's kind of like, go back to African. And there's nothing wrong with that if you're led. I believe in doing what you're led to do. And I believe that we have, I believe that we've kind of gone through some things, and I believe that we've, that's not my calling. Some people are called to go ahead and go back. I'm called to make sure that I can be a voice of the voiceless, speak the unspoken, and teach those of my people who, by the way, not just in the United States of America, but all over the world, who are dealing with some bad energy, some bad things that have been done to them, some miseducation. Thank you, Ellen. I appreciate it. And so we're trying our best to make sure that we can give people an opportunity to do that. That requires, for a lot of it, my physical presence, even in trying to finish off, at least get land started here to where we can have something separate for people who want to leave their situation here in the States. So I'm somebody who's doesn't think it's wrong or bad for somebody to want to go and to escape a negative place, to escape a negative context, to escape a negative way of life. However, I'm also really big on doing what you're led to do. And if the Most High is not leading you to a place, then don't go there. Now, I would suggest, if you can, visit there, maybe even have a place there that you own and you can go to and from. And if you feel like things get bad or whatever, you always have something to fall back on. But I'm not in a place to where I'm led to just go ahead and dip. Matter of fact, since COVID hit, pretty much our international travel for the most part has stopped and ceased. We're going to go to Mexico soon, but for the most part, we've been more focused here than ever. And in 2020, 2019 and 2020 kind of showed us more than ever that we needed to focus here. So, for me personally, that's where we are. I think we even do, if we're not careful, we do an injustice if we keep saying we're going to leave to go back from where we're from. And sometimes we forget, well, we from here, we are from here. So if I leave to go back to where I'm from, like, should I go back to where I'm from as far as West Africa? Should I go back to where I'm from as far as East Africa? Should I go to North, Central? Should I go to what they try to call the Middle East? Should I go to North Carolina, South Carolina? Should I go to Oklahoma? These are all places where I'm from. So my mindset too, and thank you, Mayhew, as well, and thank you, Brother Jermaine, as well, for the love. Like, so my focus kind of gets to a place. How you doing, Renaissance? My focus kind of is different, because a lot of people, when we say, well, let's go back to where we're from, which place you want to go? Even with people that are converts, right? If you're going to lift up the standard, supposedly, we should go ahead and look at those things. So I'm just one to look at those things and think that we should look at these things correctly. So even like Psalm 120, the Song of Degrees series we've been doing, right? Now may Israel say, people who want to see you do wrong, people who think that you deserve to be scorned, and they're at ease with your soul being scorned, right? If it had not been for the Lord on our side, now may Israel say. This is not talking about only a particular place. Thank you for the love, appreciate it. This now may Israel say, this is not only a particular place. In every place that we walk, wherever our foot treads, it should be ours. You said, where are we starting the community in the States? There's a couple places that are there. We actually have some things that are opening up. Right now, we're in the middle of trying to get the fundraising finished. So we're looking at certain places. Kind of everything's on the table. We have a couple places that are being singled out, which I won't talk about in this platform right now for many different reasons. But we're definitely looking at places that are going to be rich in nutrients. Seems like everybody really wants something that is going to work weather-wise, which probably makes it more expensive. But, we have other people that are trying to look out for us. There's somebody in the area that I'm in right now that I'm way behind on getting a meeting started with them, where they said we could at least start some stuff there, even if we don't 100% stay there. We can at least for some years get things started as far as growing food, being able to have a place to where we can come and do some things. We have some other brothers and sisters who allowed us to start looking at at property they have to be able to grow some things on as well. So we have a few different things in mind as far as that. How you doing, Sister Kimberly? How you doing, Sister Deborah? So, but yeah, a lot of those things are necessary for us to start looking at. And how you doing, Ali? Grand Rising team. Shalom to everybody. Belated Shabbat Shalom, if I didn't have a chance to say so already, based off of the Saturday thing, Sunday through Saturday. But yeah, so there's a lot of different things that we're trying to get better in and do things like that. But yeah, excellent question. But if you want more information on that, you can become part of YLP 83 Yazlan Project, or at least, contact us and we can do one-on-one conversation about it, and we can get better and become greater with that. How you doing, Cookie? Thanks for being on with us. Appreciate you. So yeah, but there's a lot of different things as far as that, and really the necessity for that. It doesn't really say that. See, we have to represent, what we call the Bible. Whether you want to say 66 books, Apocrypha added, Book of Enoch, Book of Jasher, Chronicles of Noah, etc. Do I have a job at 9 to 5? I don't need one. So no, I stopped doing that a long time ago. If I need a side hustle or something like that from time to time, I do that. But I'm not in need of that. Praise Yah. I'm able to focus on what I'm doing right now. They got rid of our stuff. You know what? I tried to put this up earlier. Let's just go ahead and leave this up for a second. I don't know why I was led to put that up, but hey, we'll leave that up. So basically, even in that, there's a mentality, right? Like somebody came on immediately, like, oh, you have a 9 to 5, you don't have a 9 to 5, you're one of these homeless, blah, blah, homeless hotep guys and all the stuff that I hear all the time, these hotep hustlers, right? And I do be hustling, but I be hustling for the kingdom. But I do be hustling. I don't hear, grinding. I'm on lion mode. I'm always trying to get it in, trying to make sure that our people are doing greater, making sure that my family is maintained, making sure that my marriage is straight, making sure that I am worthy of the calling that's on my life. So, and how you doing, Sir Stephen? But yeah, it's important. Revelation chapter 12 teaches us even that we need to make sure that we go into a place called the wilderness. Now, people go by these Eurocentric meanings. So when somebody calls you wild in Eurocentric terms, what they're saying is you have no civilization. But for us, when we say we need to go into a wilderness experience, we're talking about we need to come out of this system and go back into something that's positive, right? Um, so civilization is in the eye of the beholder. The kingdom of heaven is a civilization. How you doing, Sister Barbara? The kingdom of heaven is a culture, right? It's a civilization. It has culture. So, right. So when we say we're going into a wilderness, we're talking about we're coming out of the world. Revelation 12 is talking about a woman, the same Israel, Jeremiah chapter 3, Genesis chapter 3, who's married to the Most High, who needs to come out of the world and be out of this system. The word world, cosmos with a K, is talking about a system. So we need to come out of a wicked and corrupted system, right? And then once we come out of that wicked and corrupted system, we need to make sure that we go to a place to where we can be protected by the Most High, first and foremost. Remember yesterday, Psalm 126, no, Psalm 127, right? Psalm 127 yesterday, it tells us that that except Yahweh build the house, right? They that labor are do so in vain, except Yahweh watch over the city or secure the city, right? Those who wake up to watch over it, they do so with no purpose, right? It's vanity, it's empty. So we need to have a place where Yahweh can be first. He can be the foundation. Let him be the foundation, and then we can have the other conversation, right? How you doing, Sister Mary? So we don't even have a place where we can go that allows us to be who we're supposed to be, right? We don't even have a place where Yahweh comes first. We have a place where we have to look at everybody else, right? We have to go to a place and look where everybody else is established, right? Everybody else tells you this is what you're supposed to do, and that's part of the reason why we have so much confusion and so much reasons to go, right? We have to go to a place to where, when it comes to the creator of the universe, we have to go to a place to where he can be first. And that's even what was said and addressed in Second Esdras chapter 13, right? Let us go to a place to where nobody has inhabited it, that we might be able to go back to the righteous ways of Yah. And a lot of that part of stuff that should be written in canon for us is actually written by what we would call now indigenous natives, people of that ilk in the Americas, or people who were indigenous to other places that they rolled out to, like even in Russia and places like, you'd be surprised some of the places where the scattering happened before. When we focus on scattering, we only focus on the scattering that happened after 70 AC, when not a stone is left upon a stone, or even the scattering that happens when we were taken on ships. See, a lot of us only focus on 70 AC, right? Or if those of you who do common era, 70 ACE, whatever. But the reality is that, or I'm sorry, 70 CE rather, common era. But the reality is you've got to be honest. You got to be honest about the fact that there really wasn't the scattering that you guys are thinking about, as far as being Deuteronomy 28:68, being taken on ships and stuff. That doesn't really happen until, basically more modern history, right? The last, really 1400s, you could say. And even our 400 years, we kind of get off on that because we keep waiting for the 400 years. Like a lot of people think the 400 years just ended, 2018, 2019, 2020, something like that. And the reality is like, actually, if you look at the timeline of things, the 400 years has kind of been up for a while, but our people are still perishing for lack of knowledge. And it's not because we haven't been given knowledge. The word says it's because we have rejected knowledge. And since we have rejected knowledge, the same mandate is there. If you reject knowledge, then the Most High, he shall reject you and even your children, right? Because we're supposed to, once again, be in this marriage together. So we're dealing with knowledge. Knowledge is supposed to be intimacy. Romans chapter 10, verse 2, Paul tells us even that we have a zeal for Elohim. We want to know who the Most High is as a people, but it's not according to knowledge, according to intimacy, right? Hosea 4:6, my people perish for a lack of knowledge, intimacy, right? We're not intimate with the word of Yah. We're not intimate with what his word calls us to be. We're not intimate with what the Most High wants us to become. We're not intimate with these things. And so lack of intimacy has caused us to have a gain of, criminality, frustration, being upset, right? Like we've got to a place to where we lack intimacy with the Most High. And so the one who made us, right, is the one who we don't want to know. And so since we don't know him, intimate with him, married into him, becoming one with him, creating fruit because of him and what he has implanted inside of us, we have gotten to this place to where we keep giving birth to generations who don't know who they are. How do you know who you are when you reject the one who made you? Right? Like, how does the computer work without having the creator or a human being use it? How does your phone work? Your phone will be there, but your phone is basically almost like an empty vessel if you think about it this way, right? I can use my phone to do whatever I want to do on it, but if my phone just sits, even if it has a great battery and the battery lasts for a month, if I were to look up after that month, the activity on the phone, it basically say there was zero activity. It would say that nobody used it. It would say that it was meaningless. It had no purpose, right? And so I could keep paying the bill for it, right, and make sure that it has signal. But if I just let it sit and the battery dies, then nothing is done with it. Then it doesn't matter how great the phone. It doesn't matter if it's the iPhone 75. If it's not being used correctly, or if it's not being used at all, it's utterly useless. And you have a lot of people who are zombies in their life. We do things that are utterly useless consistently and try to figure out what's there. You said, was Israel the only culture that broke covenant with Yah? Well, as far as a specific covenant, we would say Israel is mainly the one who did, because Israel comes from the promise, through Isaac, right? However, if you want to talk about Hebrews, there have been many people who broke the covenant. Canaanites, for example. How you doing, Sister Shima? Canaanites, even according to the Bible, Canaanites used to be about the word of Yah. Then they started changing Baal or Baal. They started saying Baal had to become, Baal could be a Baal of the water, Baal could be a Baal of the sky, Baal could be this, Baal could be that, right? So they had, you had Melchizedek, who was the high priest of Salam, which was in Canaan. And yet you had people that started breaking covenant. You had people that broke covenant when Ishtar did it and decided, she said she was going to be the woman rather than the woman that was prophesied in Israel, or to be Israel. You had Nimrod, who broke covenant. That's why he was killed by many people, including Shem. You have many people who have broken covenant overall. But when you're talking about it's very interesting you would actually ask that question. There's something that pops up a lot of times, right? When you're talking about this stuff, if you look at even the word repentance, right? And I'm gonna just do a quick search just to make sure. I could be wrong if I'm not careful, but you'll actually see. Let's see. Okay, yeah, I thought so. So there. Well, I wasn't wrong what I was gonna say, but let's do it like this. A lot of people even have a mindset that Israel is the only people who can truly repent. Now, the Bible doesn't really say that, but there's a lot of people that believe that Israel are the only people that can repent, which is not necessarily biblical, because it's all over your word, including for people who are coming into the faith. But people say that basically repentance, is for those who, need to, for Israel only, right? Repent, for the kingdom of heaven is at hand. Repentance, and even the word for repentance shows up, even if it's not there in English, it does show up in what people call the Old Testament. Repentance, though, is something that everybody needs, because basically the main thing we should focus on is when Adam broke covenant, we all broke covenant. So if you're from Adam in any way, shape, or form, then you broke covenant, because whatever your parents did, whatever your father did, whatever your mother even did, right? But the fathers especially, because they're supposedly supposed to be the masters or the teachers of the house. So when Adam breaks covenant, we all broke covenant, right? If Moses broke covenant, then technically everybody broke covenant. That's why Moses has to be a sacrifice. Hey, you can't go into the land of Israel because you messed around and went against what I said. I can't have you coming in there and affecting everybody. So somebody's got to, take one for the team. There you go, Moses. You got to take one because of your disobedience. Yahshua has to die for all because Adam broke covenant. So Yahshua is described as the second Adam. Why? Because the first Adam he broke covenant. The second Adam had to keep covenant in order to make sure that those of us who break covenant are not under the first Adam's, um, you know, punishment, but the second Adam's. Even when we're dealing with Deuteronomy 28, verse 15 through 68, there are many people who have broken covenant and fallen in line with the curses. But how do we get out of that? We have to be the people who fall in line with Deuteronomy 28, verses 1 through 14. We hearken diligently unto the voice of Yahweh Elohim, right? To observe towards doing all the things that he's taught us. And when we do that, then he'll set us on high and he'll put us above all nations, right? But only if we hearken diligently unto the voice of Yahweh Elohim, right? So that is something that's very important. But there are plenty of people who have broken covenant, but now we're dealing with, we can get into. So overall, there's really only one testament, one covenant, one thing that we were supposed to do, and that caused us to have now these many infractions, if you will, or these many covenants that have been broken. So now you see people breaking the covenant of marriage because the one we were supposed to be married to the whole time, we messed that up. You see people breaking the covenant of faithfulness or being faithful to the Most High. Why? Because our ultimate father, right, as far as Adam for us in our lineage, he broke covenant. You have many people who are breaking covenant with how they're supposed to eat. Why? Because you had somebody who broke covenant with the tree he shouldn't eat from. So now everybody's eating whatever they want. So when you break one overall covenant, how you doing, Sister Bree? When we break one overall covenant, we kind of have to deal with all these covenants now that are falling out. So hopefully that makes sense. I don't know if I hit directly what you were looking for, but that. Covenant is extremely important. Testament is extremely important. Law, therefore, is extremely important. And anybody who has to repent. Now, I've heard people say, "Oh, only Israel has to repent," things like that. I don't have to repent because I'm not an Israelite. I've heard people literally in churches. This has been something that's been starting to be said probably the last 10, 15 years or so. And even in that, it's interesting because what is it? I think it's Hosea. Well, Hosea, you can say people try to say it's Old Testament and stuff, but Hosea talks about repentance and things like that lead you away from there. But if you even go into some of this New Testament stuff that they call New Testament, if you look at Matthew chapter 3, verse 11, it talks about how when you're baptized unto repentance. So baptism without feeling like you need to turn. Remember we talked about the turn during the Psalm series, right? That we turned, right? He turned our captivity. Is that Psalm 126, Psalm 125, somewhere in there? When he turned our captivity. Might even be Psalm 127, not sure. But when he turned our captivity, we were like them that laughed. It was like a dream. We were like them that laughed, and songs were on our tongues, right? But you have to turn. To turn is to repent. To repent means that I have to at least turn. So don't get baptized, but you won't turn from your wicked ways. If so, it's like the seasoned saints used to say, you just go down a wet devil and you come up. You go down a dry devil and you come up a wet devil. You said it keeps freezing. Does it keep freezing? Is that everybody's experience on TikTok or YouTube on Facebook? Is it freezing for anybody else? Y'all let me know. It's freezing? Okay. Well, I'll try. Hold on one second. I don't know because the other one says that I got a low signal, but hold on one second. We'll see if this works. Because it's saying that the other signal is extremely low. So I'm not sure if this is going to work or not. We'll see. Thank you guys for your patience if you're on the other platforms. All right, so I tried to switch. This signal supposedly is weak too, so I don't know. It is what it is. Hopefully, it's not too bad. But because on my screen it just says that we got green, so green means that we should be fine. But yeah, so the covenant piece is very crucial. The covenant piece is very necessary. But it's the best I can do. So if you say, I don't know if this one's better or worse, if I need to go back to the other one, I can try and maybe change and shift over a little bit, but that's about the best I'm gonna be able to do for us today. You think it's better for now? Okay, thank you, appreciate it. Thanks for letting me know. So And I should have been obedient. Something told me to put it on this single to start with. So I apologize for my disobedience. See that disobedience, that makes it bad for everybody else. Same thing with sin. Same thing with breaking the covenant. Adam breaks covenant, or our father or our leader or whoever, or the leader of the environment, they break the covenant. Everybody in the environment, they got to deal with broken stuff now, right? So that's part of what happens. So we got to be careful with those things. So that's a great example right there. There you go. Just to answer the question, you see it working in full time. Holy Spirit, we thank you for allowing that to happen and getting us back on track and getting me back on track. Hallelujah. So covenant is crucial, and all these things that we're trying to learn and gain, even through the series that we're in the Song of Degrees, it's about that we haven't seen people, we haven't been a people who have been keeping covenant, right? We've gone out of our way to dismiss covenant, to dismiss law, to dismiss what the Most High wants us to do. And once again, Hosea 4:6, we always talk about that scripture, but we don't use it correctly. The scripture doesn't just say only, that scripture doesn't only tell us that, what is it that I'm looking for? That scripture doesn't only just tell us that our people are rejected, or our people perish for a lack of knowledge. It says we perish for lack of knowledge because we have rejected knowledge. So if we have rejected knowledge, we've got to ask ourselves, like, why do we keep rejecting knowledge? And what does that even mean to reject knowledge? Have you ever thought about that when that scripture says that, to reject knowledge, right? Like to eject, really, right? To interject, project, reject. To eject is really, talking about to kind of put inside, or to depending on the mindset of it, to even, put something in there to kind of almost like force something in where it doesn't belong, right? We keep rejecting, right? Like we keep, not only once have we done it, we keep as a people continuously doing it. We keep going, falling through the same cracks. We keep going through the same situation. We keep dealing with the same ills, the same mindset, the same hurt, the same pain, right? And because we have continued to reject, we've rejected over and over again. We keep rejecting knowledge, right? Something's there for us and we reject it. How many times does it take before we say as a people, look, maybe we should say that there's some truth in this thing when we say that, we are who we're supposed to be. Maybe there's some truth in that, right? Like maybe there's some actual evidence that says, like, we did better when we were united as a people. Maybe we should go back to that. But what do? We reject it over and over again, right? We continuously reject it. And so since we keep pushing it out, pushing it away, and ensuring that we're going to do that all the time, 100%, like we have to continue to see, it's not that difficult to see, why do we keep going through the same curses? Why do we keep having the same issues? Why do we keep dealing with the same stuff, right? That's insanity, right? Like you said, like Sister Shima doing the same thing over and over again, right? The stiff-necked people, proud people, that was talked about even on the podcast, right? There comes a place to where when it comes to covenant, contractual obligation, why do we reject these things? Why are our marriages constantly being things that we reject, right? Why is it that sexual promiscuity is something that we entertain, right? But being married is something that we reject. Matter of fact, the things that we should reject over and over again are the things that we've allowed to come in our lives. Let's just keep it 100, right? The things that we surely should reject are the things that we allow to be in our lives all the time. The things that we should dishonor are the things that we honor. There you go, sis. You ain't gotta take that from you. You don't need no man. We love that. But sister says, you know what? I'm going to be diligent and I'm going to be supportive of the mission, because that's what I do as a helpmeet. And as I do so, he should make sure I feel secure. That should be something we entertain. But nowadays we don't entertain that, right? These girls ain't loyal, and we use another word beside girls, right? But these girls ain't loyal. These women ain't loyal. This and that or whatever. All they need to do is barefoot, naked in the kitchen, blah blah. Like, why do we entertain that? Right? We should reject that and say, hey, I need somebody who's able to help me to benefit and helps me to feel respected. And that, because anything that as a man that respects me whether it be a car, right? Whether it be the gutters on a house, whether it be the rims on the car, whatever, I will make sure I take care of whatever helps me to be respected. Period. I will take care of it. So how much more so would I take care of my wife? Not a woman, not a little girl, but a wife. But we entertain this stuff that's not respected. You said, yeah, we don't know how to become one. Still have to learn, still learning. Yeah. And I'm still learning too, Sister Marion, for real, for real. Obviously learn how to be a husband, right? But I'm still learning myself. Right. And here's the problem. We should have known this from birth. See, when we talk about your birthright, thank you, Holy Spirit, for this. How you doing, Senga? When we talk about your birthright, let's be honest. We do this thing with the birthright, and we mismanage that too. When we talk about your birthright, hear what I'm saying? How you doing, Coleman? When we talk about your birthright is more than just having everybody bow down to you. And if that's all you're looking for in your birthright, you are going to be sadly mistaken. How you doing, Minister Sonia? If all you're looking for in your birthright is everybody will bow down, you're going to be sadly mistaken. Right? Your birthright comes with what marriage is. Your birthright comes in with what peace is. Your birthright comes with your language. Your birthright comes with a sense of self. Your birthright comes with a sense of duty. Your birthright comes with a sense of accountability. Oh, no such thing. You said trying to figure out. Yeah, what's the question? Feel free. Ain't no such thing. Right? Even if somebody disagrees with us, ain't no such thing. As long as somebody just ask yourself. So yeah, feel free to ask whatever question. That's what today is, basically, is Q&A. We try to take little breaks in our series to be able to make sure that we do some Q&A so that is you guys can feel like you're getting stuff too. So feel free, whatever questions you have, put it in the chat. I'll do my best to get with you or get to the question as soon as possible. You said that's what upsets you. They took so much from our culture. You don't know who you are a lot of the time. Yeah, and watch this. That causes a lot of stuff that we in our community have been told not to take care of, right? We've been told not to take care of what? Mental health. But mental health issues, a lot of them come from just not knowing who we are. How you doing, Lorraine? Right? Grand Rising T. Right? Like a lot of people just don't know who they are. And so it causes mental health issues. If you don't know where you're going in life, will you be depressed? If you don't know how to make your marriage work, could that make you depressed? Could it make you feel crazy to try and raise children and you don't know what the standards are for them? And you keep seeing them fall into the same traps that you tried to get them out of? See, to not know who one is causes depression. And in our community, we've been taught. And so we keep this up. We tell people, don't go and get coaching. It's surprising to me how many people don't ask for life coaching, one-on-one coaching, marital coaching, et cetera. Like, it's surprising to me, even if it's not with me, how many people don't go to any kind of psychologist, counselor, whatever. Like, you need to have somebody. Now, be careful with these psychologists, because psychologists are supposed to be people who are proficient at studying your soul, the logic of your soul. However, like, it's surprising to me that we don't look up anybody to see if somebody can help us on this mental journey. Because for people who don't know who they are, that's one of the worst things you could do, is never have a checkup. And some of this stuff, the reason why we even try to entertain as many questions is because I know part of what I do has to be a checkup. I've got to go through a spiritual checkup and stuff as well. I go through different things that cause me to be down. Sometimes I go through things that make me want to quit as well. So I definitely have to check in with somebody sometimes. Sometimes for me, starting with my beautiful wife, I have the ability to be able to do that. But sometimes outside of that, I've got to, go to a place of being able to check, to just check in. Prayer is a way to check in. Calling you guys is a way to check in. Having further conversation is a way to check in as well. These are a lot of great things, that we have. But once again, like, we've been taught to dismiss. See, like, once again, your being an heir, right, means that you would know who to check into. You would have a system to check into. Those are things that are important. So you have mental health issues. You have people that just say, get over it. It happened a long time ago. Get over it. Why are you still talking about it? Get over it. Right? How you doing, Keisha Foster? Thanks for being on with us. You said it may take a few visits to find right mental health specialists. Yeah. And by the way, you might need somebody that's righteous for you. Because I might be great at what I do, but I might not be the right person for you to talk to. Same thing. Like when I talk to somebody, our first session is usually going to be, hey, do we work for each other? Right? Like I don't know if, and sometimes when I meet people, you guys actually strengthen me because while I'm helping you on something, sometimes when we first meet, you might not know this, but sometimes when we first meet, I'll be thinking to myself, I don't know if I'm gonna be able to make this work. Like I'm like, I don't know if I'm equipped for this. And you guys are like, oh no, you're fine, this and that. And then surely enough, 2-3 weeks, and I go, oh, okay. It might take me a while, but 2-3 weeks, and I go, that's why I needed to be the person to talk to this person. Right? Because sometimes I don't see it at first. Sometimes I'm like, this person seems to be better off than I am. We don't seem to be talking. And then we hit that one thing, and it's like, oh, I realize now why I'm supposed to be in this person's life in this way. How you doing? I'm bucking the system. But you have to be confident and consistent in yourself. But once again, when you don't know who you are, it's difficult. When you don't know who you are, you have people that start saying, I don't know what I'm supposed to do. And isn't that a really difficult thing? Like, I don't know what I'm supposed to do. A lot of people, that's their experience. What is my calling? Right now, how do you ultimately find your calling, or at least be proficient in your calling, if you can't be efficient? Right? I want to be proficient, but I'm not efficient. Y'all catch that? A lot of people want to be proficient, but they don't even know the efficiency. Yeah, consistency even is in being efficient. So if I'm not, how am I proficient in my calling, but I'm not efficient in what my people do? You see, like it gets to a place where we have to have honest conversation. If somebody took away what your people, like, watch this, for real, people eat different things, not just because people grew up cooking different things. That's part of it, right? But people, before they were taken and moved and all this, and before you thought it was better to get Chinese or Italian or this and that, some of you eat other food that's not even for you, right? But your ancestors ate stuff like poke salad, right? Why? Because they knew where it came from here in the States. They knew how to be able to cook the poisons and things out. They knew how to be efficient in it, and therefore they're proficient in their eating habits, right? But a lot of us, we only take what? Pork, and think about all the things that are on pork, just about the fact that pork is bad and it comes with a bunch of, things that can literally fry your brain and therefore mess up the way that you think and cause you to not be able to heal some of your emotional stuff, because emotions literally are dealing with emotions of your body, as far as even the way things synapse, or the way synapses fire. You can say it both ways because there's two different things going on. But you have a lot of different things, the way your endorphins are going and moving, the things, the way the neurons move, right? Like that's all emotion. That's called emotion, the motion of your body. Yet you don't eat food that's for you, for your body, for your motion. So when you don't eat stuff that's for the motion of your brain, then literally you are out of your right mind. Right? Think about people. People will argue that culture is something that we shouldn't have, but really you are out of your right mind because that's not right for you. Like watch this. You eat with a fork and a knife. I'm not saying go out there and if you're uncomfortable or if you want to go and just do it for shock value. But look, you eat with a fork and a knife. Have you ever thought about the fact that in your culture you eat with your hand? And have you thought about the fact that it's actually great for you to eat with your hand? It actually tastes different. So if you go to certain places, back that are culturally accurate, they don't eat with a fork and a knife, not because they're not civilized. They don't eat with a fork and a knife because the way they cook the food, it requires that you eat it with your hand. Right? Yeah, some people prefer finger foods and stuff as well. But when you eat it, what do they say? They say you eat like a child. But no. You eat like an African. You eat like an indigenous person to the Americas, right? You eat like an Australian. You're right. You eat like like Ashanti. You eat like a Swiss. You eat like you are from Lagos, or you eat like an Igbo. You eat like a Cherokee. You eat like a Seminole. It's not but they tell you what, you eat like a child. You ate something you were out of source. Well, hopefully you feel better. Make sure you catalog what that thing was, right? Yeah, that magoo, or mango, excuse me. Yeah, you eat You eat culturally. When you go to a Chinese restaurant, you think that you're just eating food. You're eating China. So a Chinese person has certain things that they require in their diet, right? When you go to an American food restaurant, right, you eat like an American because there's certain things that they feel like they require in their diet. You see what I'm saying? Right? When you go to eat at a Thai restaurant, you're eating things that they require in their diet. If you go eat Vietnamese food, pho, you're going to eat things that they require in their diet. There's a reason why they have certain things there. And by the way, not only required in their diet, but watch this, if they were required from slavery, because pho was something, just like chitlins was something that we did, pho was something that they had to do because they had no money. So if you're going to live, they got some leaves. You got some stuff that was easy to, some sprouts and stuff that was easy to be able to get and to be able to forage. You put it together. You cook the broth. You could easily take. You didn't waste any of the meat. So you took the meat and you make a broth, a nice broth. You let it cook. Sometimes for a whole day, right? Just like people be doing with that barbecue and stuff now and stuff. They would let their broth sit there and marinate for a whole day and stuff like that. And so when you're eating something that took somebody a whole day. This is an experience you're eating. Right? This is an experience you're eating. If you're going to have some fun, you're going to have an experience. Yeah, also portion control, right? Because portion control, right? So like, but when you eat with your hands and it doesn't matter if it's soup, if it's whatever, and hey, you slurp from the bowl, you drink from the bowl, right? It's something that's natural. And you eat with your right hand. It's an experience. See, everything that you're doing is supposed to be introducing culture or supposed to be reinforcing it. Everything that you do is supposed to be introducing culture or reinforcing it. We do things, and how you doing, Joseph? Sorry. We do things that do not enforce culture whatsoever. And then we say, why don't I see my culture in it? Right? We don't enforce culture in everything that we do. Right? Why is it that if you want, and forgive me, sisters, I'm just putting this out, I don't know how it works. I've seen it though, so I'm just going off of what I've seen. If I need to be corrected, y'all correct me. All right, this is not my place, right? This is not my lane. So I admit I'm stepping out my lane. So forgive me if I'm 100% wrong on this. However, may I be honest with you? I don't think we even see the inconsistencies with us going and doing things where we go to a place where we're basically taking, if we want our hair to be done, we don't go to our people. If you want your lashes, as much as I don't think that lashes are as big a deal as y'all might think they are, but for those sisters who believe that your lashes are a big deal, when you want to get your lashes, you don't go to your people. Somebody is telling you about everything. Somebody is informing you about your culture every step along the way. So of course you get to a place, and even though you'll spend money on it, see somebody else studies your culture. Right? Somebody else has studied your culture and said, oh, okay, I guess this is what they like. But by the way, long lashes, even though long lashes are something, I guess, they're nice and beautiful and everything, but real talk, long lashes are not anything that any man really be focused on. And long lashes are not anything that like came from you. Long lashes, supposedly, nobody really 100% knows, but supposedly the fake eyelash thing and them being long came from people who were prostitutes trying to get men. Right, but something that's like that we've taken and we made it a standard. There are sisters that won't even get on a Zoom session or whatever in front of people, or won't meet up with anybody unless I got to have my lashes and I got to have this, I got to have that. But it's not even your culture. And the things that are your culture, I'm not saying you can't wear a wig. Kemetic women wore wigs. I'm not saying that you can't wear something, for protection of hair and stuff. That's fine, but let it be something that you dig into for yourselves. You said you're not out looking bald-eyed, but what is bald-eyed? You see what I'm saying? What is that? Right? We got to ask ourselves where that came from. I'm just being honest with you. I've never once been somebody, I mean, with my wife now, because I noticed more of her features that I'm noticed somebody else's, right? So now I look at things like that, but I mean, she doesn't really, I mean, and now watch her. Well, I'm pretty sure I can say this with confidence. She doesn't really do lashes and stuff like that. I'm not saying she never does her natural lashes, but I'm saying like she never puts on the fake lashes, things like that, you know. But everybody can do them. Sure, that's fine. I'm not here to tell you that you have to do. I'm saying though, as far as our culture, why is it that our women believe that eyelashes are something that's a big deal? Why do any women believe it if we even can find that there's some evidence that says that it started off probably from prostitution? Now, I'm not, so if somebody tries to turn it into slut shaming, that's not me doing that. That's me asking a genuine question based off of a cultural perspective and saying, like, whose culture is that? It's like when women, or men, by the way, there's not, I said women because I was talking about women, but people in general, right? Because you can talk about Sammy Sosa, you can talk about Lil Kim, you can talk about many different people. The skin lightening, right? People saying, I don't want to go in the sun because it might make me too dark. Like, who brought you that? Right? So I'm just saying, you have to ask yourself, where did these come from? You said, oh, and that's why they disrespect you because you don't have your own. And they believe they can treat you any kind of way. Well, yeah, that's why we try to teach people to make sure that first and foremost, you got to come into your own perspective, your own culture. Yeah, you can't say you own the community if you don't own the community. So don't stop talking about the hood and then only referring to, a project because you don't even own your own project. You are the project. You know what I'm saying? And so we should always know where these things originate from, most definitely. You said, why can't we change a certain perspective in our own, why can't we change it? Well, we can, because right now we have people that are on, talking about it and changing it. So it's not that we can't change it. And so you said stylist is black, but no nail techs in the area are black. Yeah, that's something that's interesting. And some of the places we traveled, we found that to be different. Yeah, sagging pants, that came from prison, stuff like that, sure. But the perspective changes when we start talking about some of this. And this is why a lot of people, even though, yes, we go out, we feed people, we travel to people, we help people with lawful issues, we help with education, we're trying to put the finishing touches on this land project journey. We're out here I'm literally out here, I showed you guys, I got the material yesterday so I can make the tassels. And then from there, we're working on fringes. And from there, we're going to be more diligent with these shirts. And from there, we got people that's already ready to go. We got ministerial staff ready to go ahead to all the people that are in different places to make sure you guys can repeat, wash, rinse, and repeat the same process. And they can be over the environments there. How you doing, Hills? Thanks for being on. But we have to admit that we have a lack as far as we don't have anybody that's presenting culture. But once again, there's a lot of trauma in the cultures that we're trying to present. And trauma, a lot of times, is when somebody, may I say it like this? Trauma, a lot of times, happens when somebody did something to pervert your journey on culture. And perverted doesn't just mean, there's sexual perversion, but perversion literally means like I was aiming at a target and I missed slightly. Like somebody can say one little thing that makes you look like you're going straight, but the closer you get, you realize it ain't straight, right? The closer you get, it ain't straight. The closer you get, it ain't really straight. It's not really, it's actually going this way. But I from the looks of it, it looked like it was straight. It looked like it was for us, right? So we have to start asking ourselves, even when it comes down to fashion, right? And if you're LGBTQ plus, fine, do what you do. However, why is it that you allow LGBTQ plus to tell you how to dress as somebody that's straight? We don't even think about that, right? Because we all know that there's a way to dress, even if you're like, and I know somebody's going to go, well, no, there are men that dress like straight men, but are really attracted to men, blah, blah. Okay. But reality is a lot of us know that if you watch somebody in the way that they dress, the way they interact, the way that their eyes are done, if they wear makeup, certain things like that, they're telling you about themselves. If they don't wear makeup, whatever the case might be, there's culture attached to all this stuff, right? There's culture attached to all these items. And so you have to start asking yourself, like, why are we in tune? Why is somebody else telling you who doesn't even want to be like you? Somebody who does, like, for example, we use him as an example a lot, Sigmund Freud, right? Sigmund Freud. Sigmund Freud is somebody who was a pedophile. He's somebody who was gay. He's somebody who literally came up with terms like anal retentive because he believed that children, this is what he taught, and people are still being taught by him to this day. He's somebody that taught that the child is born and they want to have sex, but they can't have sex with their father, so they hang around with their mother. Their mother won't let them have sex with them anally, and so since they can't, they just basically hang around the mother, but they're always angry, and so since they're angry, they act out what you call the terrible twos. That's somebody's culture, coming from a Greco-Roman perspective, where people like Plato said that a platonic relationship is an elderly man about 40 something and a young boy about age 12, somewhere in there. And he said that that's the best relationship ever because he didn't want to be married and he was attracted to little boys. So you still walk around with the idea of platonic relationships and are taught things of Sigmund Freud. You can't be teachers for a lot of these children, even teachers' aides. You have to learn the teachings of Sigmund Freud. How you doing, Ms. Matt? And how you doing, 1 point? Right. So these are things that are there, right? Need to do some short videos on this. Yeah, possibly. I'm getting back in the habit of getting these videos out on a regular basis, so maybe we can. Yeah, but these are things that we don't acknowledge. So I'm in a culture that really is a lack of my own. What's become my culture has become anything that is against mine, and we got to ask ourselves: is that all right? Right? Like, is this okay? Like, I'm everything that I do. If I say that I'm going to be a great example to my son and teach him masculinity, somebody says that's toxic. But see, to sag my pants or to hit a woman or to cuss somebody out or to be okay with the patriarchy is not masculinity. So how can you call masculinity toxic? Thank you for the compliment. I appreciate it. Right? How do we call masculinity toxic? The only way you can call it toxic is if you're trying to compare my culture, what I live by, to what you live by. See, and so what your husband does to you in the feminist movement is what you try to say that I'm doing to you. That's when it becomes problematic. We don't want to have that conversation, but for real, that's when this becomes problematic. What you're trying to do is say, well, my man, my husband treats me like a trophy wife. So that means that all men treat us like trophy wives. How does that work? Show me the math. Show me the math. You're trying to say it's 1 + 1 = 2, but you're really doing 1/1 + 1/2 = 2/7. It doesn't make sense. Your foundation, you have none, right? Except Yehovah build the house. Who's the foundation? Right? Yeah, the math ain't math. We got to do the maths, as the English would say, do the maths, because it's not mathematic, it's mathematics. So do the maths, plural. Yeah, we're blurring the line. And now we've blurred the line so much that, see, watch this. It's not only that we're trying to say who are we, male or female, it's become now who's better, male or female. That's not my culture. My wife and I are not equal. She is better at me in certain things, period. She is designed to do certain things I cannot do. She can do certain things mathematically. She can do certain things with finances. She can do certain things by faith that I just am not equipped to do. And vice versa. There's some things that I can do that she's just not equipped to do. And when we found that out about each other and we began to support that with each other, that stigma of who's got to be better, male or female, it had to leave. That spirit, that demonic influence over a bunch of our people and a bunch of humanity had to leave and get up out our home, because we cannot make this work if we're trying to compete against each other. And we need to hear that. Right? It's a partnership. We're in a team. It doesn't make sense if you're playing basketball and every time you try to shoot it, your own teammate starts blocking you. You're not even expecting that. It's not even that you couldn't handle it or cross your own teammate up, but it's like, yo, I'm already going against 5 other people. Why would you be trying to steal the ball from me? Why would you be trying to block my shot? If I'm playing football, it doesn't make sense, right? Whether we're talking about football, where somebody's trying to get it into the goal and somebody therefore somebody tackles me, right? Trying to get the ball and they tackle me and they hurt me and they get a red card hurting their own player. Doesn't even equate. It doesn't even make sense. Or if I'm playing American football, right? And American football, where you're sitting up there, you're going through all these different things, and next thing you know, right, like, somebody, your own teammate, you're about to score a touchdown, your own teammate strips the ball out of your hand. They act like they're celebrating you, then they strip the ball, and then they go to the other side, and then they take a knee on the other side and basically end up getting the safety when you were this close to scoring a touchdown. Right? It doesn't make sense. However, if we keep it 100, if we keep it a buck, if we keep it a brick, that's what's really going on. You said you were married to a shot blocker. Okay. Well, I don't know. We have to see. We have to talk about that. I can't speak for somebody that I don't know. But let's say you were. If you were, yeah, it makes it hard to be able to do something, right? But that's what everybody wants. I'm better than you, girl. You better listen to blah blah blah, and you better just do this, and you better realize that I'm a all these terms that are coming out now, which these people ain't worthy of, even in their own culture. But I'm an alpha male. Bro, you ain't whatever. I'm a high value man. What's valuable about you? And if you're a high value man, why wouldn't you want a high value wife? But you devalue her so that you can be high value. Well, guess what? If you have to cut somebody's legs off so you can be stand taller than them, you're not taller than them, right? You're not taller than them. You're somebody who attempted murder. You know what I'm saying? Like, if you have to do that to your wife to make yourself feel big and bad, I'm high value and you're nothing without me. I mean, this is how people are thinking. This is how they're doing this whole red pill, blue pill nonsense is out there. But if you have to cut your wife's legs off to make sure your woman's legs off, or your girlfriend, some of y'all who doing that girlfriend stuff and you still in the dating and stuff, well, if you got to do that to make stuff work for you, then guess what? You ain't nothing in the first place. All you did was attempt murder. Trying to cut off the limbs of your spouse to make sure that you can say you're the one that carries them. Doesn't make sense. Why would you want that? Yeah, very unattractive when people say that. I'm an alpha male. What does that even mean? You're stronger than everybody else. You make more money. Okay, you can make more money and still kill yourself if you're not careful. Yeah, united we stand, divided we fall, fighting in the physical, losing in the spiritual, continue to crawl. Okay, I see you. Some poetry out there. Right? That's a bar, throwing some bars out there. I see you. All right. But that's the reality. Like, we're living with people who are gung-ho, I'm ready to go against you at all times. Yeah, people say men don't need to love their children and show emotion, just provide. Yeah, that's toxic. Now, that's not masculinity, but that's toxic. See, because it's very masculine. Watch this. It's very masculine to make sure that I protect my family. That means that I protect my family, not just as far as when it's time to throw fists. I protect my son's emotions, or what we call emotions, his feelings, his mood. There's things that he gathers from other people because we do a lot of stuff and we deal with a lot of things and we deal with a lot of people. That means he also comes into some spirits that are easy for him at his age to be able to deal with. And sometimes he deals with some spirits that are difficult. So I've got to make sure that I even protect those. That's my duty. The same way that I do for my daughter, by the way. Why do you protect your daughter's feelings, but you don't protect your son's? You got to ask yourself a question like that, Father, Dad. Right? You got to ask yourself, why do I protect baby girl's feelings, but baby boy, he just got to do whatever? I've heard fathers. I've had to stop friends of mine. Talking about, when my son, he had young children at the time, but he's starting to get older now. So prayerfully, he's changed his ways. I don't really talk to him the way I used to, but one of my friends was up there talking about, when my children get older, I got to make sure my daughter, she got to be protected. I know how these guys do. I know what I was doing out here when I was 12, 13, 14, blah, blah. So I got to make sure that I protect them, but real talk to my son, I don't worry about them as much. They can kind of, they fend for themselves. And I stopped him. I said, hold up. Why would you not protect your son? Yeah, it can be sad how we treat these boys out here, right? I had to stop. I had to tell them, like, why would you not protect your son the same way. He said, well, he's a boy. You know how boys are. I said, yeah, they need protection out here. I told y'all, like, I praise y'all. I was protected. I didn't know any better, but when I was in like first grade, there was a girl who was like in ninth grade who basically was trying to say that she wanted me to be her boyfriend. And now I know where that energy was going to. And immediately there were other guys. Now and at the time I thought they were bullying her, but they came, they messed her up. They started messing with her clothes. They started pulling on her pants and everything. They made it to where her clothes were kind of hanging off or whatever, and they let her go home embarrassed. And for the longest time, I was like, man, that's bad. I can't believe they did that to her. But they did that to her because they knew that she was trying to mess with a little boy. Like, little boys be out here getting messed over by these teachers and stuff too. And here's the crazy part is when the little boy gets messed over sexually, oppressed and repressed, and therefore digresses later on in life because of that spiritual conversation that goes on in his life. We sit up there and we say, high five. Can't believe that you did that. Where were these comedians out here? Where were these teachers when I was in school that looked like that? Right? But then you try to figure out why he's acts the way that he acts when he gets older, because the sexual perversion is something that you accept for him. You said you were taught that both sexes can break a heart and the spirit, right? Yeah, and it should be. But I'm just saying we have this thing. So I'm trying to tell you, like, even when they say toxic masculinity, we don't even teach masculinity because we don't protect our masculine boys. We don't feel it's necessary to protect the masculinity in our boys, right? We don't think it's okay to protect the femininity in our girls either, because from when they're young girls, we're already telling them that they don't need no man. They don't need to do this. They don't need to do that. I'm not saying teach them that they need to be married right away, but I'm saying make sure, like, and it's difficult to do on the lives because a lot of people who are not aware of what we do or won't even give us a chance, they get really messed up over this because they think I'm trying to control the way that women move. I'm the furthest from that. Right? Because I know what it is to grow up in a matriarchal society. Matter of fact, most of us do, because most of our men don't live long enough to be these patriarchs that you tell us we are. The patriarchs that live long enough are usually the 1% of the 1% of the 1% of the 1%. Everybody else is cashing out. Men cash out in this thing called life a lot earlier than our sisters do. It is what it is, right? However, like, I'm here to tell you that we teach young sisters before they have a chance to even become older. And if there's a teenage sister listening, or if there's a sister who's like just getting in college or whatever, if you're listening, hear what I'm telling you, right? We used to have some sisters who used to be really dedicated, especially before Kofi and the Score 42 went down for a second, or for some months, whatever. But, like, I'm telling you, I'm telling you what's up. I'm really trying to tell you, like, we have done a disservice to many of them because we've told them to not walk in femininity. We've told them, we've done the Willie Lynch thing. We have reversed the roles. We have taught these young boys to act like white women, and we taught these young girls to act like white men, right? You speak different than the white men, but you act like them. You speak different than the white girls, but you act like them. And you might not like my saying it, but that is real, right? The conversations that we're having in between our own people are not just husbands and wives and male and females and how to date. We're having Black, so colonial construct, Black sisters acting like white men, and we're having Black brothers acting like white sisters, right? And we gotta figure this out, right? Buck breaking is a real thing. We keep talking about these men are over emotional, this and that or whatever. You know what? Because he is over emotional sometimes. Sometimes I want to tell you it's okay for men to be emotional, which it is, but sometimes he's over emotional. I don't really like that term, but y'all get what I mean. He's acting in a way that you're saying is feminine because his energy is out of balance, because he doesn't know what it is to have proper testosterone levels. He doesn't know what it is to support proper testosterone levels. He doesn't know what it is to have people support him in his testosterone levels being what they are once he gets past a certain age. You said when you were a boy, you were taught by society not to point out things that bother you that's weak. Yeah. So he gets to a place to where he becomes highly emotional. He gets to a place where it becomes highly emotional. See, there's a lot of stuff. I tell little boys this all the time when I deal with our young with our young princes. I tell them a lot, like, hey, that stuff that you're doing now, right? That everybody's telling you is nice and everything. It's cute now because you're young, but they start coming. I'm telling you, about 10 years old, 7 years old, 4 years old, sometimes even 15, especially when they become men, they start asking questions. You know what? And they start telling me, nobody told me that I couldn't do this. Everybody's mad at me now. Nobody told me I couldn't do. Nobody showed me that. Nobody showed me that. They even get mad sometimes, and they shouldn't. We shouldn't necessarily do this, but we get even sometimes we'll get mad at the mothers who raised us, causing a whole nother dynamic. So now the mother's like, well, why are you mad at me? I'm just telling you to man up. You're a man now, you're not a child. But he's saying in him, now he's mad on his side, but when I was a child, you never told me blah, blah, blah. And what he's saying is, where's my father? Now that might not even be her fault, but I'm just saying, he's saying, where's my daddy? Or where was my father figure? Or when so-and-so told me this and you told me don't listen to him, you told me listen to you. Now here I am, I'm out here, you told me just to listen to you, and I'm getting in trouble for it. By you, right? You said the buzzword corporate is code for non-threatening. Okay, yeah, I get that. Often that emotion breaks through in anger. Yeah, and it breaks through in anger. Yeah, the new generation is emotional outside of their nature. I definitely would agree with that, right? So, well, and some brothers feel entitled just like white women. Like I said, we're taught that way. So you have a mixture, right? It's not as simple as all of them act like white women. It's not as simple as all of them are out of pocket. It's not as simple as all of them didn't have fathers. It's not as simple as all of them are highly emotional, right? But there's a lack of culture. See, culture is the foundation. Except Yahweh build the house. Now may Israel say. What is Yahweh to Israel, and what is the foundation? What does marriage look like to Israel? Why is it that you're not pre-qualified for something that's supposed to happen for the rest of your life, but you want to be pre-qualified to travel in a vehicle? And you take more pride in the vehicle that you can drive rather than making sure that you can travel through marriage without all these problems. We have to ask ourselves these questions. You see, we have to ask ourselves, why are we looking at somebody telling us what the standard for marriage is by contempt? Why is it that our marriages end up with us always walking down the aisle in a white dress when there's nothing biblical about that? You've never seen in the scripture so-and-so put on a veil and had the train going back and made sure that their wedding dress was on point, and they made sure that they had the ceremony, and then they made sure that they had the reception, and then they made sure they had the honeymoon, and then you've never seen that. You have to ask yourself, like, could it be, like we were talking about with physical food earlier, could it be possible that the spiritual food and the emotional food we've been receiving is something that's causing us to be what we are, what we eat? Heck, does the marriage vows that they tell you you're supposed to take, does it even work for the people that are telling you you have to take those? We believe in marriage, but marriage doesn't look the same for us. There you go, vain traditions, they're empty. Right? And what's happening for some people is you're starting to see what the Bible calls mysteries be revealed. Yeah, we lost our roots. You're starting to see something called mysteries are being revealed. Remember Matthew chapter 13, starting at verse 10. Why do you, his disciples say, hey, why do you always speak to the people in parables? He said, it's because it's not for them to know the mysteries of the kingdom, but it is for you to know those mysteries. So if you notice, you can start telling when it's time for you to start getting ready to change some things, because what sounds like a parable, right, or mystery to some, is actually what you start hearing and going, oh, wait, this just makes sense. This is who I am. This is how I live every day. Right? Like, this is how I live. I live differently. I eat differently. I walk differently. I talk differently. Right? Like when you see and when you travel, when you study, when you look at other people, when you look at their weddings, or when you look at their culture, when you look at, you realize everybody's really big on keeping their roots. I mean, the book of Daniel is not only truth. The book of Daniel is where you're going to need a lot of stuff to help you to comprehend a whole bunch of prophecy. But I know there's people that would say different. But it depends on who we're talking to. I got to see who we're getting this from, where we get this from to even go into that conversation. But I'm trying to tell you, like, when you begin to live it, it's impossible to go back. And here's another thing that's interesting. When you begin to live it, you realize that you could have been living this the whole time, because a lot of people believe that if we change and start doing what the Most High says, right? If we change and we start doing what the Most High says, we start saying, well, I don't think I can support my family. I don't think I can live. And you start realizing, wait a minute, like, I'm 20 years in, I'm 50 years in, and I once was young and now I'm old, and I've never seen the righteous, those who follow right lawful standard, forsaken, nor their seed begging bread. You start to see, like, oh, this, I thought I couldn't do this. I thought this was bad. But you make that faith statement and that faith walk, and your faith starts to come into contact with your works, right? Because faith without works is dead. So a lot of people have faith in what this stuff says, but you won't work it, right? And you're ashamed, therefore, right? Because what does it say? Study to show thyself approved under Elohim, that you become, and thank you for the love, appreciate it, that you can become a workman. You can work it and needeth not be ashamed. Why? Because you've been doing it so long that you can use this now to rightly divide the word of truth. Like, I might not know what somebody's talking about, but I can look up something in a few seconds and usually be able to parse through it enough to start saying, okay, I kind of get where you're coming from. We can have a dialogue. Why? Because I've learned how to divide truth. I've lived in truth so long that truth shows up no matter where you go. Right? Like, a lot of people, truth shows up wherever you go, right? It's like my hair. Like, people automatically assume, and sometimes they assume correctly, but people are going to automatically assume what I stand for. If I show up dressed like this with hair like this, it's pretty much assumed this is what this brother stands for, right? Because wherever I show up, I can't just snatch this out. Thank you for the love, appreciate it. I can't just snatch this out, right? I can't just, I can't just be sitting up there with clippers and just turn it on. Oh, I'm getting ready to go into blah blah. Give me 5 minutes, y'all. I know this. Like, this is a faith statement, and it's a work every day. Right? It is what it is. So, like, when I go in somewhere, I can't just rip this out. It's the same thing with truth. Truth is something where no matter where you show up, truth don't show up with you. Who are you? Let me see what you do. Every day. And we're missing that once again, culturally. One of the things that has to be taken, why do they take your name? That's truth. If I can identify my name, that's a lot more than what a lot of people can do. A lot of people, your name is what? Washington, right? Right. A lot of your name, if you could identify by a different name, Jackson, right? All these different things, right? Like, I saw one, what was it? They Sturdivant, all the different things or whatever. Why do you think that's your name? You said you learned early you can't do what everyone else does. And you don't get away with anything. Sure. And by the way, those of us who follow law, who are sovereign especially, we want to be better followers of the law than anybody else. Matthew chapter 5, verse 20 says, you should know the law greater than the scribes and the Pharisees. The people who write the law, you should know better than them. As Benedict Ashante would say, come on now. Yeah. Like, there comes to be a place where it's just like, hey, it is what it is. Like, I when I walk into a room, I am that I am, as people want to say and say that the Most High's name, right? But I am that I am. I can't change who I am. When I changed who I was, now here's another thing. When I changed who I was, did you respect me anyways? Okay, hold on, bro. Do something about what happened. We've been talking since Malcolm X, tired of the history lessons. Okay, well, once again, before you say that, and I guess that's your way of saying hello, before you say that, look up to see what we already do. And if you'd like to help us with what we already do, then feel free, because we teach people. We make sure that people grow their own food. We're working on getting our land together. We make sure that we take care of things lawfully to help people with cases and stuff. We make sure that we travel to people. We have people set up all over the United States and other countries as well, such as Kenya, Ghana, Nigeria. We're working on having a heavier presence in South America. We have people that are in Canada, even though we don't have a big representation, but we do have people in Canada as well. We've done things in India, Pakistan, and we're making sure that people come together. So if that's your first thing is to say, hey, don't talk about it because to talk about it means you do absolutely nothing, I would say that you need to study and not make an assumption that because you like to follow other people who don't do anything, or you have come into a couple people and therefore are trying to make an overall referendum on all of us. Because I agree with you, not all skin folk is kinfolk, but check the resume. Now, have I done everything perfectly to the standard that I wanted to be done? And are we ready to just say everybody roll out? It's not there yet. And, certain things I take accountability for. But to say that we do nothing, I think you come to the wrong place. And maybe you should have a better mindset so that we can actually make the main thing rather than trying to desecrate what people have to say. But thank you so much. If you're still on, thank you so much for being on. I appreciate it. And hopefully you'll do better. Hopefully you'll love better. And hopefully you'll have a mindset to, do things more. By the way, even the people I'm talking to, you can ask them. A lot of them, we talk with each other on some kind of regular basis. I'm not the most high, so I can't talk to thousands of people all the time. But a lot of people who come on here, we actually have relationship, have met, have sat down, have broke bread, have done stuff virtually, even outside of this, do one-on-one life coaching stuff. And I don't even charge. I ask for things via donation. If somebody can give, they give. Right. But that comes from a place, once again, that's a Willie Lynch mindset. What can I do to come on and tear down my brother or my sister? You got to ask yourself, once again, who made that your standard? That's not my standard. You got to ask yourself, who made that your standard? You said, so you're saying instead of pushing something to do something about it. And I just literally told you we do many things about it. And you came back and still came with the same ad hominem. Hear what I'm saying? Check the resume. You can go right now if you like, go to our website. It was just, if you go to TikTok, click on the link tree, go to kofi-afori.com. There's other videos and stuff as well as up in many nations and stuff like that, all over the place that are up in multiple places. Facebook mostly because they actually took down a YouTube channel, but we've even put some of that stuff up on TikTok and YouTube and stuff. You can figure out where we've been, who we help, what we do, and then come back and say, okay, if that's the standard, let's do something, then we're already doing it. So that should be dismissed. But that's what I'm saying. Even in this, our thing is to go back and forth with each other rather than to help each other. And that's not on me right now. I'm saying that I'd love to work with you. If you have something that you're doing, let's help each other. But it seems like your whole thing is to tear each other down. By the way, those who are listening to this recording on the podcast, we thank you so much for being on with you. And you can always find out more of this stuff on YouTube or Facebook later on. We appreciate you. Thank you so much. So those of us who are still on, you see what I'm saying? There's a fight. You see the fight? And why is this our fight? Why is it my fight to fight against you? Why is it your fight to fight against me? Why is it the whole thing of being like, oh, I'm going to say that you're wrong on something, and you could have literally done just a little bit of research? You have to ask yourself that question. And you have to ask yourself, is that something you normally do? Because if you do it with somebody who's a stranger, is this what you do with people you know? Now, some people aren't bold enough to do this with people they know, but I'll go ahead and give you that, boss man. If you do that to people you know, you probably are somebody that can't be heard anyways. If somebody's literally doing what they can every day. And by the way, are we all supposed to do the same thing? Because real talk, if this thing works, when this thing begins to work even more efficiently, I might only be focused on certain things like this, or only be focused on things where you don't even see me teach on this and somebody else comes and does it. Right? Because when it gets to a certain level and stuff, everybody has their lane. So there's people that do stuff behind the scenes who you'll never see. It doesn't mean that stuff's not being done. There's people who are going to be teaching only because that's what they do. There's going to be people that cook only because that's what they want to do. There's going to be people that grow food only because that's what they want to do. There's going to be people that make clothes only because that's what they want to do. Right? So you have to get past that. We've been asking people for quite some time, and that's all you can do is ask at the end of the day. Now, I think you're demanding it, but I think all you can do is ask at the end of the day, and I'll give you credit for this much, and I'll agree with you this much, that all you can do is ask for people to move. Sometimes people will, sometimes people won't. Right? But I'm not going to sit in the seat of the scornful. So, I'm not going to do that. That's not my responsibility. But like we said, sometimes people, somebody said a hug, sometimes people need love and stuff and they haven't received it. And maybe in your life, you've been around a bunch of people who have talked a great game, not just about our people, but in general, talked a great game about relationships and stuff. I can feel some of that on you. talked a great game and you haven't seen people step up to the plate. And so you have every right, if you hurt like that, to be able to say that I'm hurt. You know, and if you're thinking that I have zero solutions, or that we as a people have zero solutions, and you don't want to even listen to see if we talk solutions or not, then that's fine. But this right here is a solution. See, that's one of the things that we have to stop doing to each other. This right here is a solution. How many places do you get to go and somebody be able to honor your talking negative about them and still allow your stuff to go? And I allowed it to happen. When people say, why do you allow it to happen? I want it to happen because I know that there's trauma. You sound like somebody who's traumatized, and so are the rest of our people. So, of course, I want you to go ahead and tell me your trauma and tell me how you feel about these things and tell me how bad it is that we're conditioned and how there are a bunch of people who you feel are prostituting, our people, who are pimping our people and are making prostitutes out of us. I have no problem with you saying those things, and I would not disagree with you on any of that. I would just say give people a chance to be able to prove who they are. Maya Angelou said, when somebody tells you who they are, believe them the first time. Well, at least the first time, listen so you can hear who they are. But it's trauma. And that's one of the things we talk about. People say all the time, why you keep talking about this and this old and blah, blah, because things that are old are things that still haven't been dealt with. There's some of y'all on here right now, right? And you know who you are. I'm not asking you to call, you don't have to call attention to it. But some of you I know, actually know, because you've told me. Some of them I know because, believe it or not, as what I do, I'm supposed to be in tune with things. And some of it I know because the Holy Spirit's revealed. And some of it I just know because of statistics, in all honesty, that some of you have been messed over since you were little children, even sexually. So one of the reasons why you can't even deal with some of this stuff relationship-wise is because you had somebody take away innocence. Right? I mean, some of the stories I've heard of, and this is nobody who's on here now, but some of the stories I've heard of people who haven't been on with us in a while, who we helped through things, and literally couldn't say that they were beautiful looking in the mirror because they had mothers who were, addicted to crack and had sold them basically for a hit, who they had been, they had been forced into sexual activity, not even through their first time wasn't even through their vaginal area, but was through another orifice, right? Forced, not knowing what to do. And then when they told their own parents, because it was somebody who was a friend of the family, and then the family member then would later do it, both times they were told, hey, we don't want to go ahead and talk about it. Like, there's a lot of stuff that's out there, right? The trauma is something that happened in the past. And a lot of times we told people deny it for so long. And you've learned to be a strong, independent Black so-and-so. You got to mask it and act like it didn't happen. And we're talking about this type of trauma that happened to some people. Some of us were raised, literally, legit, right? I'm not saying this is my personal experience. However, I do know that there are people that were raised with people that happened to on a daily basis. All right, Barry, take care of yourself. All right. Some of us that happened on a daily basis to the people that raised us. And now we're trying to figure out why we're carrying certain things. That's why this is important. It's not just important to say, hey, everybody look at me and give me the views and hopefully you send me this and blah, blah. No, it's important because there's somebody out there who's been told to stay silent about something that they should have yelled about for a long time ago. And when they tried to yell about it, their own family members said, be quiet. And that's what y'all sound like a lot of times when y'all keep telling these people, those of you who do this, that's what you sound like when you tell people, hey, man, what happened to Reverend Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. was a long time ago. Do you know what it was for the woman who felt, for even the Jane Elliots of the world and others? By the way, that's not a Black woman either. But for the people of the world who heard, have you ever talked to your grandparents, your great-grandparents, depending on your age? Have you ever talked to them about how it felt when they heard on the news or in the radio that Reverend Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. was shot, or how before that, 3 years earlier, Malcolm X was shot, or in that same time frame, Medgar Evers was shot, or in the same year as Reverend Dr. Martin Luther King Jr., the Black Panther Party, Fred was shot. or that Huey P. Newton was beaten in prison? I mean, have you guys ever been blessed enough to maybe talk to your great grandparents who grew up and stuff, and found out about things, and find out about whole cities that were put underwater and how they're supposed to just continue to live? We have a family member who's passed. I won't say the name of the person, right? Family member who did a lot of great things, was an educator, and is the reason why a lot of her children are actually doing very well and have their own home and stuff. She was able to leave to them and stuff like that. And grew up in an abusive relationship. Her husband, very abusive. She lived in West Virginia for a while, and she was a teacher. And she would get sexually forced into things, sometimes on her way to teaching the children, on her way back from teaching the children. And a lot of people would say, here comes the slavery as a choice thing. Well, you didn't have to choose to do that anymore. You could have stayed home. First of all, somebody got to help provide for her family, and that's what she was doing, to provide. But number two, she felt like it was important to educate the next generation so that they wouldn't have to go through what she was going through. Right? Like literally. How you doing, Orgo? Literally. I when I talked to her, you know, she was somebody who was that sacrificial. That was the mindset that she carried. Was that I'm going to go through this abuse of my body not even being able to be mine, and then come home to a husband that's abusive because he's treated wrong and he takes it out on me. Right? And then I'm going to take care of that man, even though she kind of took some of the stuff out on him when she was taking care of him later on. But, then I'm going to take it out on him, but I'm still going to take care of him to the day he dies. And then when as long as I knew her, I'd never seen her without a smile on her face. Right? And if you asked her, well, what about the trauma? You know what she would say? I mean, it's just something that we needed to go through. That's trauma. It wasn't dealt with her. And it was passed down now, where her children be acting out in certain ways like that. And people be like, where did that come from? I know where that comes from. I know where that comes from. Your mama shared that with you. And your grandbabies are acting a certain way. I know where that comes from. Because it was never addressed. So even this right here, even though somebody might be like, oh, this is just speaking, it's not doing anything. Like there's some trauma that needs to be talked about. That's why we went through a trauma series not too long ago. Y'all remember that? We started talking about trauma and different things that were there. We were in the midst of, I forget what series it was, and we ended up talking about trauma for like 4, 5, 6 days, something like that. Because there are people that had to be strong that we could be here, but in their strength, they never got to address the trauma. Right? They forgave, but still never addressed the trauma. And now here you are with the trauma. At some point, we got to address it. Right? Love you, cuzzo, and everything. Like you've been through enough. At some point, we got to address this. At some point, right? You were too dignified a sister to have this thing that's still hanging around you and your family. At some point, we got to call that out. We call out devils. We don't dance with them. You know what I'm saying? What does that look like? Somebody trying to kill you, a murderer, a mass murderer with a knife in their hand, and you on the dance floor with them, holding the knife with one hand, and then trying to hold their waist with the other, hoping that you can hold the knife long enough to get through the dance. It doesn't make sense. We don't dance with the devil. We call them out. A devil devalues. We call out people that devalue. It's an excellent point with prayers. They got healing and told when she could, huge weight. This is where power of Yah in the mind. Yeah, right? Like we gotta call this stuff out. Like bullied children are told by their parents that they were bullied and the cycle begins. So yeah, or even people get bullied or whatever. And then we do this weird thing. Like if we don't deal with the bully, like for real. One of the reasons, so once again, as a father, let somebody be out here when I got these children with me, right? Whether they be my own or I'm watching them, whatever. And we go somewhere and somebody starts bullying them or something, I promise you, I'm about to step up. You know why? Because that's not going to be something that's going to be hanging over them, because a lot of people out here be talking. And look, this is why one of the reasons I'm not going to send my child to school, because you send your child to school and then they get bullied and then they start beating up the bully at some point and then they got to get, they got to get suspended or even, y'all can tell I'm not even in the school system anymore, whether it's suspended or expelled. And I'm like, no, you ain't got to worry about all that because my son, he get homeschooled. And if he's taught not to just put his hands on anybody. And he's taught, hey, if you have an opportunity to get away, you go away. And I don't care. You're not a punk if you walk away. But hey, you've been taking Kung Fu since you too, bro. And I want you to be rough on anybody who puts you in the corner, right? Nobody put baby in the corner, right? Nobody put my baby in the corner, right? Somebody put you in the corner, you're going to come out of there. And I don't care what age the bully is. See, y'all messing around. Y'all mess with the wrong parents. I don't care what age the bully is. I will get in the face of a 12, 13-year-old. You're going to mess with my little boy. I will get in your face. I promise you I will. And if your parents come, they can get some of this too. Y'all pray for me if y'all think that's wrong. But I'm just telling you what is, right? But we live in a society where it's okay to bully not only our children, but to bully our people. I'm not going to say the name of the person, but when we were there the last day for convocation, we were all getting ready to head out and stuff. And somebody basically tried to bully one of our people that were there. I had to remember where I was, but I got up. Once I found out about it, I got up over there and I started talking to him while he was at the table with his family. And there were like 4 or 5, people over there with the family. I didn't care. And then there was a brother that was there with me. He came up behind me just to double check because he saw I'd been gone for a while. And he knew something was going on. Right? And we in the midst of convocation, we were in the middle of doing a live. We were doing a live session. If y'all remember the live session we did and we had the ministers talking and stuff like that. If y'all noticed, I got up for a minute. I was gone. I was up talking to him and I was walking back and forth. Making sure that he heard me. And then every time somebody looked up at the table, I was like, yeah, I'm talking to him. And if you want to say something, you can get something too. I was telling them straight up. Right? Because why should the sister not feel secure? After y'all seen on lives where I've gotten off of live and I'm gone down because somebody decided they were going to try and have my son jumped, and then a guy got in my wife's face. It basically was like bumping chests with her, like getting in her face like that or whatever. Oh no. Live over. I'm out. Got in the car. Call some people up. I ain't gonna hold you. Call some people up. Yo, I might need some backup because I don't know who this person is I'm talking to, but he gonna find out today. And when he saw me and he saw that I was yelling out for him, I found out later on that the guy that I didn't know who he was. I knew what shirt he was wearing, and I thought maybe he was wearing it, but I didn't. I was walking around the whole park looking for him, and come to find out he jetted out. I'm just telling you, like, it is what it is. Like, I don't have that thing in me that says we shouldn't make sure that we secure these people. We shouldn't make sure that we deal with the trauma right then and there. Right? What kind of father, what kind of leader, if you want to call it that, what kind of pastor, what kind of man, what kind of grown human being who has charge over something or an environment or people who are in an environment would not make sure that they protect somebody? It doesn't make any sense. Right? Like, what kind of environment? It doesn't make any sense. But that's what happens. That's why your sisters and your wives and your daughters act a certain way. You say, why do they act that way? They act that way because they don't have anybody that they feel will make sure that they're secure. Now, we also, sisters, I put this on here too. I tell this to people, and I know other people have said this. I'm not sure if this person said this on live. I know they said it in person, but I'm not sure they said it on a live session or on a teaching session. So I don't want to put this person's name out. However, I've had a conversation with brothers that'll tell you straight up, like, please be careful what you get yourself into. You know why? Because I'm wired to die for you. You know what I'm saying? So please, like, be careful. Like, if you're going to get into something, if I find out about it, I'm willing to die. Right? So comprehend, if you get yourself into something that's not necessary, thank you for the love, appreciate it. If you get yourself into something, right? Like my wife especially, right? Daughter, cousins, nieces, etc., right? But and brothers as well too. But I'm talking about, like, especially, I'm hardwired to make sure our sisters are secure. So please don't be with me, and you start some mess, and then I got to go ahead and run in because I'm running in, not playing fair. And I also comprehend the other person don't have to play fair either. So if my life gets taken, I'm ready to make that move. See, so even in that, respect security. Please respect me when you make this decision that you're going to start just doing whatever. Because I'm going to lose it. If I go to jail, I will go to jail in defense of you. If I lose my life, I will lose my life right? If I'm in jail and somebody says, "What you in here for?" and they look at my paperwork and they say, "Oh, he was out here making sure that he was defending his woman." Like, I'm straight. They will protect me in jail. I'm cool. You know what I'm saying? Like, I don't mind going there for that. If that's what it is. You see what I'm saying? So in all these things that we're doing, we have to get to a certain place. That's why. So it's got to be respect for him. If he's gonna be the protector you say he's supposed to be, if he's supposed to be this person who's making sure you feel secure, if he's gonna be somebody who's making sure that he's securing even how you feel and how you operate, then please respect him in that. Right? Respect him. He has to secure you. He has to make sure that you get affection, and that means you have to give him other things as well. Like, that's the way that it works. And when we do this back and forth, we're able to take care of each other. So, like, yeah, so in this journey, I'm telling you, like, that's, and we don't even think about that. I don't care what you think. You talk to your husband like that. You talk to your man like that. I don't even care what you think, blah, blah, this and that or whatever. But then if I get in something, I need you to protect me and be willing to give your life for it. That's not even, it's, to be fair is an understatement, but that's not even righteous in any way, shape, or form. The picture is from something I was talking about last night. And really, I've had a bunch of pictures of. This picture in particular is talking about what certain people did, certain indigenous people in the Americas. You said, if you guys have the truth, tell me, why did Peter deny Christ? Can anyone answer? Okay, if that's your way of saying hello, open brainer, that's fine. If you think that that's something clever to open my brain up, I guess since you're open brainer, go ahead and give me the answer. Is the answer, because that's not even apologetically sound what you're doing. I guess, are you looking for, is your whole thing to say that basically Peter only denied Christ because Christ said he would? But even if that's the case, I don't even comprehend. We're talking about something completely different. Your whole thing was to do that. That's gaslighting, or maybe not gaslighting, but it's definitely a straw man. It's not even part of what we're talking about. But in order to not make it a straw man apologetically, you need to give some kind of credence to that. Not even sure what that has to do, right? You know. So, but we have to be in these particular things. You said we have to read the whole script. We are a people out of order. Christ comes to restore. Hosea 4:6. Hosea 4:6. My people perish for a lack of knowledge, which is intimacy. And it's not because you have not gotten knowledge, but it said you have rejected knowledge. Therefore, since you have rejected knowledge or rejected me, I will reject you even to the next generations. And sure, Malachi chapter 4, verse 6, I would use that more than anything else. Malachi 4:6 saying that the hearts of the fathers have to return to the children, and the hearts of the children have to return to their fathers. And then what happens next? Yahshua comes to return the hearts of the children to their fathers, and the hearts of the fathers to the children. However, I'm not sure what that has to do with what we're talking about. But I get you. I'm sorry. I missed what you were saying. Restore the priesthood. Now you have knowledge. Sure. Where are the priests coming from? If they're not bringing the right culture, I'm not going to restore. It's not for me to restore the priesthood. It's for the priest to restore the priesthood. I am a Levi. I am a priest, if you will. I am Levi, I guess by occupation, if you want to say that, if you don't want to give me that. But really, I'm Levi by bloodline, and I'm actually Yehovah or Judah by bloodline as well. Remember the last days, Christ said he would restore the assembly like the last. Okay. All right. I guess you're just okay. Thank you for putting those things. I don't mind. I guess put those things in the chat. It's not an actual conversation. you're just throwing things in there. No problem. You said he said he would be raised up, our King David. Okay. I'm sorry. What is? Y'all help me out. Did I say something? I'm missing where we're even going with this. It seems like we're just throwing out anything we can. I'm trying to keep up. I don't know what the actual relevance is to the conversation. Apologetically makes it hard to deal with because I don't know what I agree with what you're saying. I guess I just don't know what to do with it. It's like we're talking about keeping things together in the house, and then we're like, oh yeah, make sure that you recognize that the priesthood has to be restored. I mean, sure. I don't know enough about it to talk about it. That scandal. I guess I can look it up to see if I can find something out about it real quick, but I really don't know anything about it. But I don't know if anybody has anything to do with what we're talking about. If they'd like to talk about it again, while I'm looking this up. Is that the thing having to do with hold on. Oh, BSDM teddy bears? I had no clue about that. But I mean, it doesn't surprise me if you live in a culture that says that your children, like if you live in a culture that says that your children should be able to tell you how they want to have sex, then why would it be surprising that they have BDSM teddy bears for your children? I guess. But I really don't know. It's not surprising. I'm looking at the pictures and stuff now, I guess. Um, Not really surprising. Don't forget, wasn't it what's her face not that long ago that had children's clothes that were supposed to be of murderers and stuff like that and everything on there? Celine Dion. Did she have something weird like that too? Like this stuff happens quite often, but that's part of people's culture. So, but yeah, I don't have much to say about that. It's not really surprising. But really, we're dealing with questions and answers today, dealing with the Song of Degrees series we've been talking about. And I don't mind going to other questions having to do with our cultural context and things like that. But yeah, I don't know anything about that outside of what I just looked up. It's not surprising if you're going to tell children that they can go ahead and tell you how they want to have sex. If you're going to go ahead and lift up the teachings of Plato with the Platonic relationships and of who was I talking about earlier? Oh, Freud and Freudian teachings and Freudian slips and all that stuff and anal retentive stuff and all that. It's only a matter of time before they basically treat your children how you allow them to be treated. You said you asked a question. Why did Peter? Uh, I already answered your question, and I said like you can easily just give an answer, right? If you haven't, right, what is your answer? What is the thing that you think makes you better than everybody else because you have an answer to one question that nobody else has? Just say it. You see what I'm saying? Like it's a very weird thing. I'm trying to, but people want their best. Hey, answer what I'm saying. Do it this way. I must be correct. What are you doing? This is what it is. If it's not what I said, then it's not correct. You said professing themselves to be wise, they became fools. So you're trying to call me a fool. That's nice, but you haven't said anything wise yet. Help me out. Yeah. Okay. Somebody just went ahead and muted you for the live because you're not trying to do anything of value. You're just trying to say, um, does anybody know what I know? And we don't even know what you're saying is correct. Because here's another thing, right? It's the foolish things of this world that will confound the wise. So if you're about to tell us something that's wise and you're saying that we're fools in our own eyes, like, but you have nothing to say outside of just ask a question and then say that you know it. Right. But once again, I don't know. Where are we at? This is, well, we're just doing Q&A today. And Q&A really supposedly based off of what we've been going over. But a lot of people don't want to talk about these things. How you doing, Planet? A lot of people don't want to talk about these things in the correct fashion. There's all these different things. You said there's only one answer. Find Christ. He walks on earth. Oh no. Yeah, I don't follow false messiahs. If the Bible declares that when the Messiah comes back, first of all, he wouldn't be Yah, Jew, Judah, because he wouldn't have any letter J's in the language that he speaks. But if you were going to do that, but if you're saying that he's going to change up the word of Yah, then you also have to admit that he's changed it up. Matthew chapter 24. Matthew chapter 24 basically says that there are going to be many people that say they come in his name. There's going to be all these different things, false prophets and everything. And those are the beginning of sorrows. They must happen. It says in Matthew 24, verse 13, those of us that endure that will be saved. And then here's the key, Matthew 24, verse 14. Matthew 24, verse 14 tells you that once we preach this proper interpretation, then he's coming back. So the Most High is not going to send Yahshua his son back to make sure he sets things in order. He's not sending the Messiah to set things in order as far as he needs to teach us. at that, when the Messiah comes back, he's coming to make sure that the Hakwaya, what you call the firmament, is rolled back like a scroll. That's what he's coming to do. So I know of Yah, Judah, and all this stuff. You said with the letter J is in your language. So is the Messiah going to be about? Well, first of all, it's not my language, anyways. But is the Messiah going to be? Is the Messiah going to be about those things? Is the Messiah going to make sure that he comes back to separate those who did his will from those who didn't? The Messiah, according to Matthew chapter 24, verse 14. Okay, so you're not even willing to listen to anything. You're blindly listening to something that the Bible, your Messiah, told you about already. And when he said he's coming back, he said, I'm not coming back to make sure that I teach anymore. When the Messiah comes back, it's over. You know that, right? Like when the Messiah comes back, he's not coming back to teach. He's coming back at this point to set things in order. Matter of fact, Yahshua Mashiach, he dealt with that when he was here on the earth. He said, remember, there's the rich man and there's the poor man at the gate beautiful. The guy at the gate called beautiful is talking to him, right? Or is asking every day for alms. The guy wouldn't give him anything. Both of them end up dead. The one who was asking for alms is in the bosom of Abraham. The one who wouldn't give him anything is burning. He says, can I go back and can I teach anybody? He said, no, you had your chance. He said, they'll have their chance too. At this point, it's over when he comes back. We're supposed to be responsible for teaching this interpretation throughout the entire world. It's interdependency in a marriage and between the Most High and his wife. So we're supposed to be teaching this word. We've been given direction. Proverbs chapter 1, verse 8, our fathers give instruction, mothers lay down the law. So we've been given instruction. We're supposed to lay down this law. Everybody who decides not to be a part of this, when he comes back, it's over. He's coming back looking for an assembly without spot or blemish. He's not looking for an assembly where he's going to take the spot or blemish out. He's coming back looking for an assembly that already has none. Period. So you said, how can we know what we weren't taught? We are a generation that doesn't know God. Well, first of all, I don't know God. God is a Germanic deity. Elohim is who you should know. Elohim is the one who sent his son. Elohim is where you get Aleph, Lamed, Che, Yod, Mem, which is the Trinity leading us by their hand in the water, blood, and spirit. So you're busy telling me about something that's not even original and something that's not even in his word. You said, who gave me this anointing? What high priest gave you by word, sound doctrine? Well, I guess if you want to go to, I guess if you want to go to Kyle Thompson or to Joseph, Joseph who did so as well, or if you want to go to Apostle Fenrick, or you want to go to all these different people if you need names to it, but you don't know who they are anyways. My question to you is, who authorized Yah, your Messiah? Because your Messiah has literally said things, and I've just told you why your Messiah has said things against his own word, which means he's changing his word, which means he cannot be the Lord, for his word has changed, because the Lord, his word changeth not. What authorizes that, and what authorizes you to be able to tell what my authority is or isn't? See, but nobody wants to speak up against false stuff. Like, you got to ask your Messiah, why did he say something in Matthew that's different than what he's saying now? Why did he say something different in Revelation than what he's doing now? Why is he changing it up? You got to ask your Messiah. You got to ask your Messiah why he doesn't even speak his own language first. You got to ask your Messiah, why is he teaching things that are against what he originally taught? You got to ask your Messiah, why is he teaching things against what he did? For in the beginning was the word with Elohim, the word was Elohim. You got to ask your Messiah, does he know what Barashak means? And do you know what it means? You got to ask your Messiah that. That's what you said your Messiah is. That's not mine. That's not my master. That's not my Messiah. None of that. It's not. Right? I know the word of Yah. And I know enough to know when people aren't reciting it correctly, let alone living it correctly. How you doing, Lyndon? Right? So in all these things that we're doing, see, even in a Q&A session, we're dealing with stuff. You said you're reading from the word, the Bible, which says the Lord, not Elohim. Perhaps you can, perhaps I can clarify. Sure. Well, I use the word Lord there when I'm talking about Adon, right? So when I'm talking about Adon, now if I'm talking about Lord in all caps, that would be Yahweh, right? If I were to say, if it says Lord God in English, I know that means Yahweh Elohim. So I'm saying that this person is telling me that I'm supposed to profess everything in English. Well, in English, I'm saying how his Messiah is messing up his own wording. Now, if you want to talk about, do I actually know what it says? And therefore, since I use the word Lord, I disqualified myself. Well, obviously, that's not apologetically sound, but I get it. That's gaslighting to try and make me feel guilty about something. Maybe that's not your intent, but that's more gaslighting than it is actually getting to the point of reference, right? So there's a lot of stuff that if we're not careful, we'll start using somebody else's culture, right? And that's exactly it. I was about to go there. Thank you for saying that. That's Christianity, right? Christianity is when you take a bunch of different things. Christianos is where that word comes from. And when you take a bunch of different things, put it together and say, okay, I'm going to make it whatever I want it, rather than say, I'm going to uphold the interpretation. See, what's happening is we're having conversation about a construction. Construction is supposedly based off interpretation, but somebody can construct something in a fallible manner. These are lawful terms. The Bible is law and case study. You said, no, you said the Bible I'm reading from says Lord. I'm not reading from a Bible. I guess if you're saying I'm quoting from, but even still, if I'm reading from a Bible, the one that I'm reading from, yeah, but I also read from one that is in Paleo Hebrew. I also read from one that's, and by the way, it doesn't matter what version you're reading from if you don't know the culture. I know exactly what you said. I know exactly what you meant. I know exactly what your aim is. It's just looking like the Dunning-Kruger effect. And I'm trying to get you back on track so that we can actually have proper apologetic conversation rather than you trying to go ad hominem and say, you don't know, you're bad, you're bad. Trying to get you back to where you can actually have a better conversation because you're floundering right now. Instead of like us going and being human beings, you're floundering by trying to attack. You still haven't shown me where I'm wrong. You're just saying, I found one chink in the armor, so I'm gonna try and say that everything you say is wrong. And by the way, it's not even a chink in the armor, it's just what you decided is wrong. You said your son was defending. I'm sorry, I missed that a long time ago. Your son was suspended for defending himself and walking away and still got punished. You said your aim was not gaslighting, nor did I say you were wrong. I was just asked for clarification. Okay, well, I'm just making a point. I apologize then. If you 100% meant no bad intent or whatever, then I make mistakes. I'm sorry. As you can see, I'm dealing with a whole bunch of people who are obviously saying things pretty close to that. And so I'm not perfect. I'm not the most high. I can only go off of what I'm seeing. So if you're saying that I made the wrong assumption, so be it. I guess I won't see anything close to anything like that again from you, and you won't get anything close like that from me. That's simple, right? We can control that if that's not what you meant. Right? So there's a lot of different things on here, and even in these things, in these processes, I'm just like, it's interesting to me that people don't read up. Like even we say this a lot, read your Bible, it'll bless you. Like in your own Bible. Somebody's busy telling me about Yaju Judah, but Yaju Judah misquotes the Bible they say they profess. Or the person who was so busy trying to tell me that I use the word Lord. Okay, fine. Like using the word Lord is different than using the word God. Like God is specifically Germanic deities. Lord can be used for a bunch of different things. Right now, if you're not careful, you can make something your Lord that you probably don't want to be, but Lord can be for many different things. God is pretty consistent. We know what that word is, where it came from. So like a lot of different, yeah, okay, cool. I got it. I apologize. You don't even need to apologize. You haven't apologized. You just basically said like, hey, I was wrong. Okay, I'm wrong. You're right. I don't care about being right. My bad. I'm trying to be righteous, not right. So my bad. You got it. I'm sorry I've offended thee. I really am. I apologize. Right. So these are these are things that we're talking about, right? Like is in all these things that are happening, like we can't even have proper Q&A sessions because people are questioning things based off of something that's not even culturally appropriate. Or if it is appropriate, literally remember appropriate literally means somebody took it and they're using it for their benefit, for financial gain usually. Right? So there's all types of stuff that's there for us. We just don't look through it through the proper prism or through the proper cultural lens. This is why we're so big on culture. We have all these people who are telling us all these different things. The only reason you believe what you believe is because you uphold a culture. That's it. Like, if we can just keep it 100, you uphold a culture, and that's why you believe what you believe. That's why you do what you do. That's why you live how you live, right? Why do you believe that the dollar is something that has any value? Because you were raised to believe that. What does currency even mean? Currency means what? Currency means that a bunch of people come. Oh, how you doing, Trauma Shaman? My bad. Currency means that a bunch of people come together and believe that this is what we're going to say we should spend. And so our belief makes it currency. If we decided that we didn't believe in the dollar, it would immediately not be currency. And y'all going to see that happen next year. Federal Reserve already has it happen, where y'all going to start using their crypto, right? Like, so you're going to find that real quick. All it is currency, or what you call financial currency, is just what you believe in. It's faith, it's culture, right? Yeah, culture drives perception, and perception is the key to comprehending truth or understanding it. Most definitely, right? Like, so currency is just simply what? Right? Currency is just simply what? What kind of gym are you trying to leave? I'm sorry, chef. Right. So currency is what? Currency is something that you agreed to. You have all these things that you think are currency for your community, but they haven't paid off much of anything, have they? They haven't taken care of trauma yet, but you keep believing in it. That's a faith statement, right? But faith without works, you should know by the tree. You should know the tree by the fruit it bears. You should know the person by their works. Faith without works is dead. A lot of people have faith that we shall overcome, but still are not. But guess what? The Bible doesn't say you shall overcome. The Bible says you shall be more than overcomers. The Bible doesn't say you shall conquer. The Bible says you shall be more than conquerors. Now, if you have faith in that, that's great. Now, where are the works? Yeah, culture puts things in context. Yeah, and it has to be taken in context. Yeah, a rock can be currency. Shells have been currency. Hey, y'all remember, wasn't too long ago, toilet paper was currency. That's why y'all think they put a limit and a ban on toilet paper because people couldn't buy it. No, they put a limit and a ban on toilet paper because there were people buying toilet paper from Costco and BJ's and what's the other one? Sam's Club and all that other stuff. They would buy it from there, and then they were selling it to y'all for way more than what it was worth. And all these other places said, "Oh, we can't have other people making more money off our toilet paper than we do." But you remember not too long ago, toilet paper was currency. Are you asking if you would like you like some reading material? Well, there's plenty of stuff, but I'll list out some stuff. But I'm just saying, culturally, you're going to have to get this stuff first. You're going to have to start living by culture. And really, I'm just going to list certain people. I'm not great at remembering names of everything, and I've read quite a few books, looked at quite a few documentaries, movies, had quite a few different teachers. Have a lot of people who I still look up to, whether they're alive or dead to this day. Thank you for the love, appreciate it. But like, it's all going to be about culture. When you realize that the culture you're looking at is there, like, for example, if you're going to look up what has happened to you as a people in your trauma, go look up Dr. Joy DeGruy. She wrote a book on PTSS, post-traumatic slave syndrome. And she has many different speeches you can look up as well. Once again, it's called PTSS, post-traumatic slave syndrome. When you read the book, you're going to discover that you should be more empathetic, even to some of the people who you automatically say have to be, Esau, or have to be white, colonial construct, white people, or whatever, because you'll discover a lot of them, they had to be mistaught. Not a lot of them, all of us had to be mistaught. All of us had to be mistaught. Right? How you doing, Marky Sheriff? Like all of us had to be mistaught. Right? People don't recognize. You don't just go, hey, I'm going to send the army into the Congo, and I'm going to just have them cut people's limbs off, take pieces of scalp them, take their teeth and put them on necklaces, take their fingers and put them on necklaces, send back pieces of their limbs to us. You guys think that y'all, what we'll do in our mind if we're not careful, all these people were just evil. But the reality is you got to realize that King Leopold the First wanted to get in on the slave trade, couldn't. Get in on Africa, and Belgium at the time. They wanted to do with it. So that shows that Parliament and Belgium as a people, they actually were trying their best to be like, we don't want to support this hateful doctrine. So what do? King Leopold II makes a fake corporation, just like the United States is a fake corporation. Y'all don't believe in this stuff, but people do this all the time. He makes a fake corporation. He finds out rubber is in one of the places that nobody's trying to get to, which now you call the People's Republic of Congo. He says, okay, cool. I'm going to go ahead and make a fake corporation, and I'm going to place it in this place that's not really real, because no tribes knew about the People's Republic of Congo. He didn't even call it that, right? But he makes a corporation in this place. He then knows that Belgium has already said, just like they told Ronald Reagan, don't be doing this Iran-Contra thing. They actually wrote it in the law. He knows Belgium has already said, don't go over to the Republic of Congo and do what you're about to do. So what does he do? He says, okay, look, I got a fake corporation, but I'm the king. You guys pay me money anyways, right? Give me a whole bunch of money. So I'm going to use that money and I'm going to hire your military. See how something can be legal, but it's not lawful. He hires the Belgian military from the Belgian people who said they don't want to be over there in Africa. He then retrains them, sends them back to boot camp, and starts telling them, hey, you're going to run into animals that look like people, but they're really just animals. They might have a language like you have, but they're really just animals. Hey, parrots can speak like people, right? They teach them that stuff, and then they send them over to Belgium. And so for generations now, you have a bunch of young men who are going to join the military, who are going to be retrained, who are going to be sent over to what we now know as the People's Republic of Congo. And they're going to basically be killing these people off and chopping them up. And then when they're asked about it later on in history, right, you can watch these men talk about it on documentaries, and they'll tell you, well, I was just following orders. They're not people. That's what we were taught. We were told that they weren't people. It's not my fault. I just followed orders. And following orders without any context can be dangerous. A lot of people in the military can be dangerous. A lot of people that are police officers can be dangerous. I'm just following orders. All I do is what they tell me to do. Right? Then Leopold III basically lets go, is kind of forcing the letting go the Congo, but was hoping they were still going to bow down to him on the low. Lumumba comes out and says, we ain't going to bow down to you at all, comes up with a speech and basically calls them out and says, we're glad to be rid of y'all. Leopold III gets mad, works with the CIA. They kill off Leopold III. They put his best friend up, and his best friend basically, I don't know if it was his best friend. I might be thinking about Sankara, but they put his best friend up, or they put somebody up who they paid off, and they basically keep letting the CIA in Belgium make money off of them. And they're still dealing with that connection to this day. But they were just following orders, though. But they had to be trained how to follow orders. They had to go back to boot camp, right? But you got PTSS, post-traumatic slave syndrome, teaches you about a lot of those things. Everybody had to be trained. You can read books about Israel, from Israelites who were former slaves who told you they were Israelites when they got their freedom and wrote books such as Oloada Equiano. Or what about, reading the teachings of Marcus Garvey, the speeches of Marcus Garvey, and even looking at the actual Black national anthem for the red, the black, and the green, how it mentions Israel and how it mentions Jerusalem and how it mentions, us going back to the word. It's in the national anthem, or to the Black national anthem, not the lift every voice and sing. That's out that red hymn. We're talking about the actual red, black, and green national anthem. Those of you who've taken Black history, we've actually played it for you before, if you remember. Right. So it's huge, like these things that are there. So, but we don't look for those things because we don't have a prism to look there. What about the teachings of Dr. Amos Wilson? Have any of you even heard of Dr. Amos Wilson? Have you studied him on finance, on Afrocentricity? These people are there. We just don't look for them because we don't find them to be valuable. What about Imhotep? He was teaching about medicine a long time ago. Why do you only look for the modern father of medicine? Have you ever looked at Dr. Neely Fuller Jr.? I think his first name is spelled Neely, Dr. Neely Fuller Jr. He has a whole book just on code. If you want to know what they mean when they say this, read his book. Excellent. Right, but we don't even think about, what about Dr. Frances Cress Wilson, who just passed away? She passed away not too long ago. Dr. Amos Wilson has since passed, passed away before her, but passed away a while ago too, right? But you have Dr. Frances Cress Wilson, who literally shows you how to look at certain things that have been built up, and you can see what they're doing. What about Dr. Yvonne von Sertima, who wrote several books that you should read? Mainly one of the ones that everybody always points to is, before they were here, before Columbus. What about Dr. And this is the one that, really, this is the person that kind of should be like your genesis through the Afrocentric lens, if you will, especially if you're somebody from the United States of America. What about Dr. Carter G. Woodson, right, who wrote several books on different things? The main one that everybody points to is The Miseducation of the American Negro. And he admits that before he wrote The Miseducation of the American Negro, he had a Harvard education. He said before he could write the book, he had to dismiss, it took him 20 or 30 years to dismiss all of the education he had before, so he could actually look through a cultural lens to write the book. He has other books too to tell you what the history of Black churches actually used to do and what they used to be in their society versus what they do now. It'll shock you, the differences between now and then. A lot of different things that are out. If you talk about Dr. Sebi, I don't know if he has a book per se, but he definitely has a lot of knowledge that's out there, and a lot of writings you can look. Here's another one that people don't talk about as much as Dr. Sebi. He's not as popular, but probably is actually more informed, believe it or not. I'm not saying that he had better results, but probably more informed as far as helping you to come out of the system, because he was a doctor in the system and then started just only focusing on, Afrocentric medicine. Dr. Laia Africa, spelled Llaia, last name Afrika. You said book titles. I don't remember all the book title names. I have given some book titles as I've been speaking. What about Powernomics by Dr. Cloud Anderson? Right, is that his last name, Anderson? Dr. Cloud, is it Cloud Anderson? Uh-oh, I feel like I'm saying something wrong. I always mess up his name, but Powernomics, that's a book you can read. What about Dr. Miles Monroe, The Pursuit of Purpose? It is Cloud Anderson, okay. What about Dr. Miles Monroe, The Pursuit of Purpose? He's Haitian, by the way. No, not Haitian, he's Bahamian. He's from the Bahamas. List goes on. What about speeches by Frederick Douglass? What about speeches by Lumumba, who are so much? Matter of fact, there's a guy that's around nowadays. Look up his speeches and transcripts. PFO Lumumba, over in Africa right now, trying to make sure that we come together. These are all people, but once again, some of it's going to be foreign to you if you don't look through the proper culture. See, Dr. Cloud Anderson is not going to be as simple as, hey, make sure you invest in this and you'll make money tomorrow. That's not what he's going to be speaking on. Dr. Cloud Anderson is going to remind you that when we've been in our greatest financially, it's been when we were in segregation or when we were in tribes and kingdoms, which means that in order for you to grow financially, you've got to realize that there's a such thing as much as you don't believe it, because I know they want you to tell you all money's green. There's a such thing as Chinese money. There's a such thing as English money. There's a such thing as American money. There's a such thing as African money. There's a such thing as, just like there's a such thing as African land, right? And there's a such thing as all these other things. There's a such thing as money for all those different groups of people, because they use it for their own purposes. And that's what we're trying to get to, is, once again, one of the things that we forget, one of the things that we don't have, one of the things that's not on our list of things to do and to create and to be aware of and to be honest about, is to say, hey, people have things for their people. Family, like your family has your money. As much as you'll say, oh no, money is green and money belongs to everybody. Doesn't your family have a bank account? Dirty Little Secrets. I haven't read the whole thing of that, but I've read excerpts of it. Everything I read out of there was great as well, right? But doesn't your family have its own, stuff? If I might be so bold, I'm an author too. If you want to look up stuff that we have as well, I think would help on some of this. Some of you wouldn't look at me as being in their league, but I would think that some of the stuff I have is stuff that would help you on every day. But do you not think that money? Hear what I'm saying? Money, you have your own account, right? Some of you don't even share accounts, so you don't have a family account, and it shows how our people are, where we don't share stuff. We don't put stuff in a pot. Other people come here and put stuff in the pot. That's why your people at one point had homes and had whole communities and stuff, because everybody put money in the pot to make that happen. Now you guys are just like, oh, this is mine, this is yours, blah, blah. So you can't even spend money right in your own house, let alone spend money for society. Right? So there's a lot. Oh, Mississippi in the house. Okay, how you doing? So there's a lot of stuff where we're not even aware of how to spend it collectively and how to separate it. You don't believe that there's a such thing as money, but guess what? The state of Georgia has money that the state of New York can't touch, and the state of New York has money that the state of North Dakota can't touch, and the state of North Dakota has money that the state of Tennessee can't touch. The state of Tennessee has money that Texas can't touch, and Texas has money that California can't touch. There is a such thing as money that belongs to people. Right? There is a such thing as money that belongs to people. Right? And so you as a people, see, watch this. This is facts. You as a people, if they were to separate you right now, as far as you guys who call yourself African American or whatever, or Black people part of diaspora in the United States Corporation, if you as a people were to separate your income, not what you spend money out on, but your income. Now, you're only 13% of the population, but this is how powerful you are in the world. You're only 13% of the population in the United States of America, but this is how powerful you are in the world financially. If they were to separate just the people in the diaspora for the United States of America, as far as this fiat currency called cash, the amount that you make every year, you would be like the number 8 country in the world, which means the United States of America's value would go down too. So they wouldn't be number 1. At least, actually, no, they might not. Well, at least not as far number 1 as they are. Let me hold off on saying that. They would have to come down in value though. But if you were to separate us, we would become the number 8 country in the world as far as income. So with all that income, why do we still only own less than 0.5% of the wealth in the United States Corporation? As much as I can be honest with you and say, right? As much as I can be honest with you and say that a lot of it has to do with other people. Some of that has to do with the fact that we don't do what we're supposed to do because we don't think that we should have our own. So we don't even believe the necessity of having a place to have our own culture. We believe in making income. Don't let anybody fool you. They'll tell you, oh, Black people lazy, this and that. But we would become the number 8 nation in the world. Do you know that the number, it shifts back and forth, but either the number 1 or the number 2 export in the United States of America is not oil. The number 1 export in the United States of America, it's not oil. It's not medicine. It's not steel. It's not coal. It's not cotton. It's not all this other stuff. It is hip hop music. The number 1 export. The number 4 import in places like Ireland and even I think Deutsch and other places is hip hop music. The number 1 thing that they buy from America is your music. So if we make up the number 8 country and we set stuff ablaze for all these other countries that's buying from America, but you still own less than 0.5%, less than 0.5% of the wealth of America. It hasn't changed since 1865. Dr. Cloud Anderson, he teaches about that too. Since 1865, we have consistently owned less than 0.5 percentage point of the wealth of the United States of America. But you're the number 8 country in the world when it comes to making money. You got to start asking yourself now, it's not just because you don't have, it's because you don't even think it necessary to have. And I'm not saying you do this purposefully. I'm saying that we have been made ignorant. Watch this. This is one of the reasons why I say, look, I agree with you. Our people deserve reparations. I agree with you. Our people deserve reparations. I agree with you. They gave it and took it away. I agree with you that you're right to say, give us reparations. But it's got to start with inward reparations, because they ain't going to give it to you. They gave it to your slave master when they let you go. They gave it to the Jews when they said, you're not an Israelite, right? They gave it to them when they went ahead and participated in killing them off. That's why Americans still pay Israelites, because technically they were killing them just like Hitler and the Nazis were. They were allowing it to happen. They were making money off of it. Ask Coca-Cola and ask them how they came up with Fanta. Ask them. We talked about that before in the live. Some of y'all know what I'm talking about. So they still pay them reparations, but they won't pay you. Meanwhile, though, you have enough money to where you could have been bought a whole bunch of land, even if they tried to overprice it. So what? It's worth it. Buy it. Live together. Become one nation. How you doing? Talk about shalom to you, right? Become one nation. But see, we're afraid, because then what if they call us black nationalists? Well, what if they do to us what they did to Tulsa before? What did they do to us what they did in Philly before? Well, what if you combine the riches of Tulsa with the heart of Philadelphia, with the environment and leadership? We got to have proper leaders coming to it, but the leadership of a Garvey, with the mindset of making sure that whites can help us, but they can't join us, because first there can't be black-white unity, there's first black unity. And then if people are grafted in, they got to be unified in the belief system. Malcolm X. What about with the mindset of the Black Panthers, who started in the 60s, a couple of years before Martin is even killed, right? Right. And what about the idea of Martin, who says that, hey, there's a lot of stuff he talked about where it was very Afrocentric, but we never credit him for that. But at the same time, he was able to explain to others, hey, we'll be in line with you to a certain extent, but hey, maybe I brought my people into a burning house. And we got to comprehend there's two Americas. If there's two Americas, we might as well exploit it for ourselves. If they'll exploit us, we might as well exploit their system. We'll render Caesar's things to Caesar. However, Elohim's things come first, and their law says we're allowed to live like that. Right? And if you didn't catch what I was just doing there, I didn't even go into Rosemont, I didn't go into Yorkville, I didn't go into a bunch of other places I could have mentioned. But if you didn't catch my drift, what I was saying is all those places, you had people that were rich, Tulsa, but they didn't make sure they were protected. They were still doing the same business. They were still hoping that people would allow them to be accepted, even though they had more money than them. Right? When I talk about Martin Luther King Jr. was somebody who said, I have a dream that we can all come together simultaneously, though he also made a point, because that was 1963. We act like that was it. Don't forget, in 65, he was also the person to say it's a cruel joke to tell a man to pull himself up by his bootstraps, but at the same time, he has no boots. Or he was also the same person to say that whites in America are hypocritical because they act like it was hard Protestant work that got them what they have, when the reality is just everything that they have was built upon the labor and the backs of slaves. Right? Like, what if Malcolm X, somebody who said, hey, I'm about nationalism and I'm not apologetic for it. He said, at the end of the day, they don't hang you because you're Muslim. They don't hang you because you're Christian. They don't hang you because you're Jew. Let me go ahead and add some others. They don't hang you because you're an Israelite. They don't hang you because they hang you because you're black. Right? So if we want reparations, and you're waiting on them to give you stuff, and then they're going to print up more money, because that's what they're going to do, is just print up more money to lower the value anyways. We might as well take our number 8 in the world mindset and just have our own. You see, Marcus Garvey had the right idea. He wanted African to be for the Africans, all of us to go back, but he was also dealing with what? With a very American mindset as well. And he was getting stuff done. Marcus Garvey had 4 ships. Now, I thought it was only 2. Somebody told me it was up to 4. So, whichever the one is correct in it, I'm not 100% sure. However, he had ships that were going back and forth, right? They actually had, their own cruise line and stuff, which back then was really big. Airplanes were not as big as they are now, right? So you had cruise lines going back and forth. I mean, they were making money. He was making money. The diaspora was making money. Everybody was dressed the same. They had a culture. And even if I would say I wasn't cool with it's not what I would think would be our people's dress. At the same time, though, he had an idea like, hey, let's do this. They had their own anthem. They had their own flag, right? They had a nationality. They were a people. When they killed Garvey, Some people would argue they didn't kill him or not or whatever. They definitely attempted to kill him. They definitely sent him back home. And when they sent him back home, he probably was poisoned. We don't know for sure. We do know this, though. Garvey had a mindset to make you a people. And lawfully, a people is different than a person, is different than persons. A people is a nation. You can be a people on paper. You can be a non-citizen national, be part of a people who are looked at as being private citizens and not public. Right? If it had not been for the Lord, who Lord on our side, now may Israel say. That's a declaration of a people. We just go, that's a declaration. No, that's a declaration of a people. If it had not been for Yahweh, who was on our side, now may Israel say. When he turned again our captivity, we were like those who dream. Right? It became like laughter to us, and it became like songs that came from our tongues. He's talking about the people. Right? In this whole Song of Degree series we were doing, Psalm 120 through Psalm 134, right? Really, we've only gone through Psalm 127, right? Another part of it that says what? Psalm 123, verse 4, that there are people who love when it comes to your soul, your psychology, even to ensure that they can be scornful of you, for it makes them feel at ease. For they hold you in contempt, which means that they believe you deserve to be scorned. When you become a people, you start recognizing, who is this stuff talking about? Whether it's scripture, whether it's the Declaration of Independence. Declaration of Independence says that it's written for a people, but then it talks about slaves and savages. You were never a people concerning them. So if you sign up to be part of United States citizenship, then of course you're going to be treated as a slave, as a bond person, as a savage. What you do is savagery. Right? And you've even bought into it so much that you love to say it. Man, that's savage right there. Right? You get people that sing a song saying that they're a savage. Where did that come from? Yeah, up you mighty race, yeah, Marcus Garvey. Right? You said with crypto, they no longer have to print it. They now want us to have faith in something we can't see. Well, you already have faith in something that's not backed up by anything. That's the trick. Is we think that because we could see it, we should have had faith in it. You know, fiat cash has not been based off of gold or silver since Woodrow Wilson, and definitely since Richard Nixon. So we've had faith in something that hasn't been real for quite some time. Just because you give them a piece of cloth, or you want to call it paper, just because you give them some paper doesn't mean that it's real. What I want you to think about it like this. If I give you a piece of paper and I write the number 1 on it, and then I give you a piece of paper and I add a 0 to it, and then I give you another piece of paper and I add 2 zeros to it, are they all paper? Just because I wrote number 1 on one sheet and the number 10 on one sheet and number 100 on one sheet, they're still all the same paper. We have the mindset, once again, currency means we have to agree with it. So we have agreed with the context that says that because there's a 1 with 2 zeros on it, it's worth more than the 1 with 1 on it. That's not real. That's not how stuff works in reality. And we've agreed that no matter how dirty or clean it is, it still has the same value. And we've agreed that we've agreed that there needs to be no gold and silver to back it up. Right? But gold is worth more than money, but we don't want gold and silver to back up our money anymore. Like we've come into agreement on it, whether through ignorance or whatever. We got to ask ourselves why. I'm sorry, Tuckwell, you said even throughout our captivity and the diaspora, the Most High surely punished us, but didn't put us in Siberia or Alaska to serve our bondage. He put us in fertile lands. Yep. And how you doing, Machiel? Right? So we got to ask ourselves, like, we see this stuff as off. Common sense, and not even common sense, because not all sense is common, but sense of our people and of our culture is starting to resonate. And there's a frequency, if you will, that's starting to arise based off of the spirit, right? Because energy and spirit are not the same thing. I just want to make that clear. Some people be like, oh, energy, they're talking about spirit. No. Like spirit has no physicality to it. Energy does. So energy and spirit are not the same thing, right? The physical resonates with an energy, but the physical comes from through the soul, comes through a soul and through a certain lens, comes from the spirit, right? So I'm very careful when I speak on that too. But I'm just saying, like, we have to recognize, even in all the stuff we're putting into, the reason why we're afraid to lose money is because you think you're losing something real. Matter of fact, people that are rich, they don't have money in bank accounts. You know that, right? Like the richer you get, the higher people go up, the less bank accounts they deal in. I'm not saying they have zero bank account, but they don't really deal in money in their bank account, right? Because they don't want it there, because that's not how you make money, is having it sitting there, because it's not real. They're trading it for stuff that's real. Right? Oh, you doing well? So they're trading the stuff for stuff that's real. We're the ones talking about we got to hold on to it, or we'll give it away for something that's fake. Right? Before everybody buys a car, right? Buy a house and get yourself a bike. If you can make car payments nowadays, some of y'all paying $700, $800, $900. Well, there's house payments out there that you can get a mortgage. I really think you should pay for stuff cash if you can. But if you're into the whole getting a mortgage thing, where there's houses out there, you can get mortgages for cheap too. Get yourself a cheap mortgage. Believe it or not, there's people, I know people that are paying $400 a month mortgage. Right? It's not huge, but they own it. It's theirs. They're working towards ownership. And guess what? Now you can afford the other payments, or guess what? Especially if you're single, get yourself a bike. Get familiar with the metro system. If you have one where you are, I know not everybody has one. Get yourself familiar with getting on that train and on that bus, or getting on a bike, and get in shape and save yourself some money. Have get a backpack again. But like people who have money, they're not keeping their money in bank accounts. People who keep their money in bank accounts and make money, people who win the lottery. You know why? Because when they win the lottery, they're dealing with money for the first time. They've been buying the lottery hoping that they don't have to actually execute and put the works together with their faith. So now when they finally get the lottery ticket, those are the first, usually a lot of them, most of them end up broke. Go look up the statistics of people who win the lottery. Some of them have won the lottery multiple times and have been won it twice and have been broke twice. Because just because you got a lot of something doesn't mean you have the mindset. Right? People who make money, they spend money. It's like even like gambling. People who are so anti-gambling, and by the way, I'm not saying go gambling and stuff. I'm not with it, but I'm saying people are so anti-gambling, but you don't realize like you're doing the same thing, investing and doing all that. It's just gambling. You're gambling, though, what? Based off of some actual stuff that you know that it's more than likely you're going to win more than the house does. And you'll know when to check out, because eventually the house will always win, right? So at some point you got to check out. At some point you got to check out, because the house will always win. That's the way the system works. But you work the system. You realize, how does it work, this, that, or whatever. Okay, boom, it's time. I see they're about to do it. That's why they locked up Martha Stewart. They locked up Martha Stewart because she got out before the house did. That's really all she did. They said because somebody gave her information. People always trade and give inside information. Right? But you got to realize, like, see, we have a mindset about money. Oh, let me put it in the savings account. Savings account, you ain't making no money. Well, no, I'm saving the money I made, but you're supposed to, your money makes money. That's how that works. Why do you invest in a company? Because you're hoping the company stock grows. If the company stock grows, then your money just by sitting there literally made money. But we don't have that mindset. We go, oh, we're still thinking, let me save everything I have. Let me just hold on. Let me kind of like be, what is it called? Like in their system, that don't work. Like in our system, we're afraid I'm not going to give anything into a pot of stuff. But that's how you guys had homes in the first place. You don't have a community that's Puerto Ricano or Mexicano or Cubano in the States, and those people didn't come together and start pooling money. You didn't have slaves that just automatically work themselves free. That happens sometimes where a slave could literally just save up money by themselves. But the reality is that the whole community would come together and pick one of their brethren and say, they can make it out. We'll go ahead and sow into that person. And when that person makes it out, we have faith that they're going to start working to tear the system down. Yeah, that's why refunds do take longer than the actual transaction, because refunds really could happen automatically, but you can't get refunds because when you give somebody your money, they've actually started investing it. They want to make a certain amount of money off the money you've given them first, and then they'll give you back what you gave. Like I don't know if anybody's been in this experience. I've been in a car accident before. If you get in a car accident, the insurance company, even if it's both of y'all share the same insurance, the other person's in the wrong, they already admitted, they say you're gonna have to wait, right? It's cheaper for them to give you a crappy, usually a crappy little rental or whatever. It's cheaper for them to give you a rental than it is for them to just give you what's owed sometimes, because they're gonna take whatever money y'all been given or whatever, and they need to make sure it makes a certain percentage first. And then when they make the percentage, then they'll give you, your little chump change. You think, oh, great, I got $10,000. And that's a lot for an insurance company. But you be like, oh, I got $10,000, or oh, they're going to give me another car, blah, blah. You thinking that's a lot. To them, they're like, man, that's pennies. They're like, that's pennies. But we don't have that mindset. But once again, in our word, in our culture, we're supposed to teach about equity. There's even a law. When you go in front of a courtroom, you talk about substantive law. When we talk public and private, you also got to figure out if it's or admiralty law, common law, or law of equity. And we don't even know how to do that. You see, so like you sitting up here going through stuff, and we're not even using money the way it's supposed to be used. See, the greatest kings you can talk about, like when we use King, Mansa Musa as our example of like extreme riches, but you can talk about pharaohs and stuff as well, or even some of the kings of Yasta. But when we talk about these great kings of our people, like Mansa Musa is usually the standard. Do you not realize that Mansa Musa always gave? He comprehended the principle. Like he had so much money, but he always gave. When they came and they were dealing with Montezuma, and they were trying to get Montezuma to go ahead and give up his gold, he showed them a room. He knew what they came for. He showed them a room in gold that basically was, he showed them a room, and he said, I'll fill this room up with gold. And basically they marked it. He marked high in the ceiling around, like with I think it was a white marker, somebody made a mark. And then they basically came in and they filled the room up with gold. Like giving has never been a problem for those that are rich. And believe it or not, even if they're not giving to the community, they still give. The principle is give. The principle is invest. The principle is be about something outside of yourself, right? If I'm going to have a business, if that business has to be successful, I have to always be thinking outside of myself. How you doing? Oh, Dr. Fingers, what's up? Said he gave so much on his pilgrimage to Mecca, he changed the economy of gold. Yeah, for 10 years. In certain places, gold was almost like everybody had it. So they couldn't even use gold as currency for like 10 years because they were like, what do we do with this? Everybody's got it, But in our culture, it's never, like people who have made it have never had a problem. If you're going to have a successful business, your business has to be greater than yourself. If you're going to have a successful community, your community has to be greater than itself and greater than yourself. If you're going to have a successful family, you have to have a mindset that's greater than your family. Because whatever you do in that mindset is what takes care of the family. And we can't even get people to extend past themselves. We have a problem that's worse than what we're thinking it is. It's not just as simple as, oh, people don't want to listen, this and that. It's not just as simple. We have a problem to where we are hoarders, and you've been taught that hoarding is actually going to bless you. But anybody who's been in a situation where you've either hoarded or you've been around a hoarder or you've seen the television show or whatever the case might be, somebody who hoards is somebody that eventually has no space, can't keep things clean, can't do anything. They look great outside the house sometimes, right? But a lot of times they'll look great outside. But man, when you come into their house, because you can't receive anything new if you don't give out anything. Hey, how you doing, Olmex King? Said Bill Gates ain't buying all the farmland because he's a farmer. He knows what C-19 did to supply. Well, I mean, yeah, and also Bill Gates is trying to make sure that he's telling y'all that there's no food for anybody on the planet either. Right? But even for him to get to that position, guess what Bill Gates had to do? As much as we don't like the way he did it, he had to give. You hear what I'm saying? He had to give. You said aunt was ashamed to let people visit. Yeah, I mean, we've all had family members and stuff. I mean, I used to do it to a certain extent. That's why I'm cool. Like, I'm comfortable. I really don't have much to my name, outside of some land and basically like some clothes. I guess vehicles and stuff like that. But I really don't have much. I don't really worry about it. But like, I comprehend I can't get more if I'm always holding on to everything. Yeah, he gave a lot of evil, sure. But I'm saying, as far as like, he gave a context, he gave a concept, he gave an idea as far as what now people are using. So even for him to get control, he had to give it out. Like, even for the little bit of finance that my family does make, and that we're going to continue to make and get stronger in, and that our community can continue to make stronger in, et cetera. Like, even in that, this stuff that I'm giving out every day, like, people think that this is like, this stuff, people charge for this stuff, man. But when I give it out, I expect there's going to be a return. And I don't get mad now. I used to be frustrated and mad and sad, and people would be like, oh, you preachers are trying to take money and stuff. And I realized, like, wait a minute, I don't have none of these fancy shoes they say we all have, and I don't have any of these cars and stuff. And then I looked up in the word, oh yeah, well, if I'm doing what I'm supposed to do as a Levite, then the least I should do is follow what a Levite does. And the Levite's not supposed to have a 9 to 5. So if I'm going to give a word every day, then that's what I sow. And what I reap is my family is taken care of, and my community is taken care of. What's wrong with that? But we think that the word of Yah is less valuable than money. See, some of you have a calling right now. We have some people in the community have businesses that they've done this, right? Like, some of us some of you have a calling, like, for example, to cook. And you are outstanding when it comes to cooking, right? But you barely cook. Your schedule is so messed up that you barely cook for yourself, let alone for your family. What if you would make sure that you bought 1 month extra supplies, and you kept cooking and cooking and cooking, and you had all this food, and you started giving it out to people in your apartment, neighborhood, your job, whatever. You started giving it out to people for free. And of course, hopefully you give some to the homeless and stuff like that as well. But what if you just kept giving it out for free? People have started businesses like that, and people said, ooh, where'd you get this from? Have it in a nice little to-go dish or the to-go plate and all that stuff set up. And they'd be like, who made this? You say, oh, I made this. You see that company right there is mine. Go get a little sticker, put something that they can scan on their phone, take them straight to the website. Oh, you know what, girl? I'm going to order me 7 of these. Oh, we got something coming up next month. Look, I don't know how much you cost, but we're gonna have to talk about it, because normally I got somebody, but I got to have you cater the event. Can you cater? Well, I'm be honest with you. Be honest. I haven't catered an event yet. I do know how to cater, though. And if you talk to me through what you need, I promise you, I'll make sure whatever's there. All I ask is that you make sure that I'm bare minimum going to be able to make sure that I can pay staff. Well, pay staff. Some of y'all already pay staff. Well, I'm going to be doing this and doing that. Look, it's your first time doing it. Get your name out there, right? Sow into it. See if people agree that they should pay currency for this. If they will pay currency for it, is because you gave it out. People don't give out for something that they've never seen before. You hear what I'm saying? That happens once in a blue moon throughout the story of mankind. It's very rare that people are going to pay for something that they've never seen. They got to see it work. They got to see it operate. They got to hear stories of it. They got to see this thing work. It might take you. That's why it takes 7 years for people to recognize whether their business is actually successful or not. If their business will survive, it takes 7 years before you know for sure this is what my business will be, just for the start of it. Right? And so you got to realize, like, people are out here saying all this stuff. I'm telling you, like, you have a mindset inside of you. You have a thought process inside of you. Like, give what you have, your gift, give it out, and people will begin to pay for the gift. Even though you gave it for free, they will want more of the gift. And the only way you can give more is that they're going to have to help you. It's a community. We think that people are self-made. billionaires, millionaires, whatever, self-made business. No, the business, we give our gift. And when I give you my gift, people say, man, I like that. I need that in my life. I need that in my community. My family needs this. Therefore, I need you to thrive so that you can keep making this product that I might be able to thrive as well. And so as you sow, they sow back, right? Give and it shall be given unto thee. Allahum's measure. You just gave out a gift and now they're going to give back. See, this is how we operate. Yeah, everything big was one small, right? Every store that you look at now, every time you go into a Walmart, that started all small. Before it was known as Walmart, it was a real small thing there, right? There were mom and pop shops that now you go to all the time and you swear that it's the fanciest thing. And you pay $500 for an item in there when they were hoping at some point somebody would pay $2.50 for it, right? You have to get to a point to where if you'll give, when you'll at first you'll give, you'll struggle, right, to be able to make money off of what you give, but then it turns around and comes to a point to where you're struggling to keep up with what people give. But we don't recognize how that works. And people in the world, even though they're in the world, they keep some of these concepts, they keep some of the laws, they keep some of the commandments better than we do. Proverbs chapter 13, verse 22, we say we'll make a faith statement without any works. Here's how it works. We'll do the faith statement, the end of the verse. The wealth of the wicked is laid up for the just. So we start saying, I call that out and I want this and I promise and y'all's going to bless my family with this and that wicked person over there has this. Well, how much so will he bless me and all this stuff, right? But what's the first part of that verse say? The first part says you have to have a mindset to take care of your children's children. If you're not working on generational wealth, then the wealth of the wicked ain't laid up for you, because even the wicked got enough sense to take care of their grandbabies. You say you've been a barber that's been a long time now, but when it gave away cuts, it definitely did. When you gave away cuts, oh, it definitely did for a while. Yeah, I can't tell you. And people like yourself, by the way, thank you, because back when I was getting haircuts, I'm not there anymore. But when I was still getting haircuts and I was homeless on the street, man, wasn't nothing like a brother that would show up to a shelter and give a haircut. And then he would get a haircut, and guess what? They started giving him, a stipend, and then the stipend turned into a payment. And then some of the brothers who started getting on their feet again, they're like, yo, man, I still need you to be my barber. You was getting me and this and that. So now you got to come to the crib now. Isn't it Steve Harvey who told the story? And Steve Harvey, as much hell as we give Steve Harvey as a people, Steve Harvey does have some powerful stuff that he said. And one of the things that he said one time that was great, he said, do what you do, right? Do what you do. He said, I got a barber. He said, and guess what he does? All he does is cut hair. He said he don't do all this other. Thank you for the love, appreciate it. Right? He said I don't do this. I don't do. He said all my barber did is cut hair. He said I was going to him. He cut my hair. I give him a payment. He said after that I started doing big or whatever. I'd give him a bigger tip. He said after that I started traveling, making it or whatever. I needed him to be my barber wherever I went. So he cut my hair here. He cut my hair there. He cut my hair here, etc. Right? He said all he did was cut hair. Right? He said then. I made it, and I was paying him. I forget how much he says paying him. Probably something like thousands, maybe 10,000 plus a month, something like that, just to cut his hair, right? Because that's how important. That Steve Harvey cut was had to be the same. Had to, and only one person cut his hair like that, right? So he felt because of connection he had. So the guy went from something to where he was giving it to him from time to time when he couldn't make it for free. Then when he was making a little money, he broke them off. Then he started giving bigger tips. Now he's traveling. But then he said he decided to shave his head bald, right? And he said his barber freaked out, just about lost his mind. He thought he was going to have to put his barber on life support, right? Because that's a big chunk of change coming in. He said he went ahead and put together, a nice little bit of change for him as a thank you for years of service, especially since he was taken away. He said then what he did, his barber went, opened up, got himself some salons. He opened up, and then also he has several barber schools. And so guess what? Now his barber is still making millions of dollars now, and all he does is cut hair. But he was willing to give it away for free. He was willing to give it away then for people who were so into it. And the problem with it is community. We got to recognize this because other communities do this, whether you like them or not. Other communities do this. We got to give credit where credit is due. Other communities, they sow into themselves. Thanks for being part of the community. Is it Apokthai? I'm not sure if I'm pronouncing that right or not. You said now there is no one left in the neighborhood to laugh at them. They bought the neighborhood. Oh, people used to laugh at the number of Spanish people that lived in one house. Yeah, by the way, we used to be those people who lived in one house. And then we started laughing at them, strange enough. And they're our people. It's wild how people get us to come against each other, right? But I'm saying, like, the problem is that we don't think about it as community. If somebody in our community is doing something righteous, before we pay, for somebody to send it through Amazon, if somebody in our community is doing that, we should be paying them. And then you say, oh, well, I don't want to pay, I don't want to pay extra, whatever, but you'll pay $300 for a shirt. But that person says, I need $80 for this thing. I just made it by hand. And you go, oh, no, I'd rather pay $300 for Versace. When's the last time Versace made sure that your community was all right? Right? We got to get back into that stop, right? Sustenance, textiles, occupation, right? What's your purpose and things? I feel like I said that wrong. But, like you got to get back to these things. You have to be in a position. Right? At the mall, they give you samples before you buy. How many times you going past the Chinese place? You want a sample, free sample, free sample, free sample. Somebody on the clock, they have to rotate out, in and out, and they spend 30 minutes of their time. Free sample, free sample, free sample. Why am I giving you a free sample? Because if you taste it once, right? If you know what you're doing is righteous, if you taste it once, you see what I'm saying? That's why it says, oh, taste and see. That's Psalm 134, right? It's Psalm 134, verse 8, somewhere around there. Oh, taste and see that Yahweh is great. It doesn't say you're going to have to eat it. It doesn't say you're going to have a meal. It says if we can get you just to taste it. The problem is not that you can't even eat it. The problem is not whether you're allergic to it. The problem is you won't even taste it. You're so immersed in somebody else. You're full off of somebody else's stuff, and they're full of you know what. And it hasn't advanced your community. Right? When I go back to places I went to high school, right? I remember what that high school looked like and the junior high school looked like. I remember being in trailers in the elementary school, all that stuff. Trailers in the back of all those places I went, right? But they were all in colonial construct white neighborhoods, and they were considered to be ghetto for the white neighborhoods, but they were better than what we had. Right? Now, when I go back to those places, stuff on the screen, football field looks different. Gym is out of this world. Like computers in every class. All the students are going to get MacBooks and laptops and stuff to be able to take home, and that's their laptop for the year. Like literally for the year, they get given a laptop for the year. Like I remember thinking we was doing some big things when Daddy brought home a computer. Right? But they get laptops. They say, take your laptop home. This is what you're going to do your homework on, this and that. That's why these babies can't even write no more, because they just type everything. I remember when I thought I was a boss because I learned how to be able to type, not looking at the screen at what I was typing. Right now, they looking at you like what's writing? What's this writing thing? I remember thinking I was doing big things when I finally learned how to write somewhat neatly in cursive. Cursive? What is cursive? Yeah, we had a pencil sharpener, right? And the pencil sharpener sometimes they didn't even work right. Right? Had to empty it and everything. Sometimes you had to take the big part off and just sharpen it with the thing and hope that you had a trash can big enough to be able to catch it and make sure that you ain't mess yourself up with all the stuff that was going around and sharpening it. You had a school. Heck, some of the schools had libraries. I remember that was a big deal when I went to high school. They actually had a school library that was small. But I was like, man, they got a school. But now you go back to that same place, the theater. They got a theater. They actually had a decent sized theater. When I think about it now, we actually had a pretty decent theater, for stuff, but it didn't look like other schools' theaters. Now, I mean, they got a theater. Right. But I'm saying all that to say, when I go back, they sow into where they came from. They figure education is important. They sow into it. They don't have to have a suggested donation. They just say, hey, when I come back through, man, you know what? I'm making a couple million now. I got to break y'all off with 100,000. Y'all the reason I get this couple million, that I got this couple million. It's not even a question, right? But we say, well, the wealth of the wicked is laid up for the just, but they think generational. The Most High says, if you can't think generationally, then stop talking about like you know about equity. Stop talking about you're gonna build stuff. We kick our children out after people in our community do this too often. We will kick our community out. I'm sorry, we'll kick our children out of the house, and we'll kick them out of the house after we done already messed up their credit. Put their name on the light bill, put our name on this and that or whatever, then we kick them out and say, you 18, you got to figure it out. If you're not going to think about the generational wealth, and the wealth of the wicked is not for you, because wealth is laid up for those that follow law. And some of the wicked, they follow the law when it comes to wealth better than we do. That's stuff that we don't like to hear, but that's what you deal with self-accountability. You said you tell your students to tell the person to hold and then hang up the phone. You know, so we are lacking wealth, not because you don't just or not always because it's the white man's fault, like colonial construct. Sometimes it's because you lack accountability. Want to follow no law, but want all the consequences of law followers. My people perish, but for a lack of knowledge. But read the rest of it. It's not just because you lack knowledge. It's because, sorry, mosquito, I got it. Traveling around, beginning on my nerves. My people perish for a lack of knowledge. And it's not just because of knowledge, it's because you have rejected knowledge. It's not because you lack the knowledge, it's because it was presented to you. You could have been intimate with it, and you decided to do something different. And sometimes we got to admit that. So the question becomes today, will you stop rejecting knowledge? You said your dad opened a credit card in your name when you were a child and built you great credit. I mean, that could be great too. If somebody wants to do that, or somebody wants to write a trust for you and all that stuff, or somebody wants to start investing. My son already has investments. You know, I've been investing in stuff, and he loves it to be able to go. He'll go on my phone, and I'll say, okay, son, you know, this is how much you can take from this and put it in here. And he loves to be able to see stuff go out of my account and go into his. You know, you ask my son, might as well tell you, I'm rich, but I want him to think like that. He's supposed to. And even if daddy's not going to be rich, I'm not going to be rich because you're going to be rich. Don't get it twisted, sir. You know? But and we aren't taught to leave a legacy. We're not even taught. Once again, we're not in a place where we think we deserve legacy. Right? Yeah, people half quoting Hosea 4:6. Yeah, like without context. Right? Or people misquoting what we talked about Proverbs 13:22. Or people misquote Proverbs 20. I'm about to say the wrong place. Y'all forgive me. I think it's Proverbs 22, verse 6 and 7. It's verse 6 and 7, somewhere in the 20s. I think it's Proverbs 22, verse 6 and 7, where it says that we always do this part only. We say that train up a child in the way that they should go, so when they grow old, they will not depart from it. We love that. But that's not the whole verse, but that's not the whole context. Read the next verse with it. The next verse says, teach them to make sure that they are borrowers and not lenders, because the borrower is always subservient to the lender. Put the two together, you're basically saying train a child up that they would be better with their finances so that they can be in a position to lend money instead of have to borrow it, so that they don't have to be servants to anybody else. And when they get old, that'll be one principle they never depart from. Now, I'm not saying you shouldn't train up a child in the way that you go with scripture and yada, yada, but what I'm saying is that's not the context. Same to you, Sister Dawn. That's not the context. Right? That's not the context. The context is what? Is that your child should know about finance. Your child should know the context of the finance. Right? Hold on 1 second, y'all. Hold on 1 second. Sorry. Had somebody asking about something. I wanted to make sure that sorry about that. Had somebody asking about something. Was trying to see if they needed me to be right now or later on. But yeah, you have to be in a position where you recognize what's going on, and we're not training our children up as far as equity. So when you don't train a child up as far as equity, guess what happens? You messed up. And we haven't done it for generations. And they don't see us doing it. We've gone in reverse. See, we had this weird thing that we think that we're getting better. We're actually getting worse, not just as a people, as humanity, right? When babies aren't babies anymore because they're still inside the womb, that's getting worse. When we still got places like Detroit to where the median wage for our people in Detroit is $6,000 a year, that's getting worse. When less people have drinkable drinking water, that's getting worse. When I have to buy water, that's getting worse. If I don't even know how to grow my own food, some of these babies go to school. Hear what I'm saying? Like, because you think wealth is just only finance, but wealth is financial. It is your health. It is your mindset. It is your emotional response. It is your EQ. It is your IQ. Being whole. Yeah, we have more people sleeping on the streets, getting worse. Right? There's a bunch of people in Washington, D.C. right now that are going to sleep out in the cold tonight. And nobody cares because they look better than other people because they have more programs in D.C. Man, I've been homeless in D.C. and I've been homeless in Chicago. It's a different experience out there. In Chicago, colder, you would think that they would have more for you out there. Now, thankfully, there were some churches that actually opened their doors up for us and let us sleep on the floor and stuff like that. But man, not as many as you would think. We're getting worse. New York City, of course, right? Miami, Florida, right? Honolulu, Hawaii. These are places I've been, and some of them I've lived. San Francisco, California, Oaktown, right across the bridge. Boston, Massachusetts. Closet racism going on there, as well. People want to act like it ain't there. H-Town, Houston, Texas. Dallas, Texas. I'm trying to think of some of the places we just even went this year. Memphis, Tennessee. North Carolina, South Carolina, ATL. I wasn't around, and it was extremely freezing temperatures when we went up there, so I wasn't really around in upstate New York enough to really get the gist of it, although I've heard many stories about there as well. Philly, we went through there. When we were in Detroit, a lot of the people that we gave finances to when we were in Detroit was just straight up like finding people on the street and giving them something. Right? Brazil, you go down there, whole places where everybody living in tent, hoping that a breeze ain't too strong to come through or an earthquake or something. Lagos. Actually, Lagos not as bad as you would think. Actually, Lagos not bad at all. Naples, Paris. I mean, this goes on and on, right? Like, there's a lot of places you go. Montreal. You said you have a question. Do all humans get chances and time to better their lives? I mean, I'm not sure the question exactly. Do all humans get chances and time to better their lives? I mean, I guess technically there's always a chance. There's always a chance until the day that you die that things can become better or greater. At a bare minimum for you to at least have a mindset change. So there's always a chance for everybody, right? But there's also a chance for us to always help everybody too. I'm not sure if that was the exact question though. But there's always a chance. There's always a chance, and like I said, a lot of people don't want to hear, but once again, it starts in the mind. A lot of it starts with the mind. Some people want to call it victim mentality. I'm not really big into talking about victims because in order for there to be a victim, you have to have victors. But to create victims, but nevertheless, like, there's a part of this where we have to be accountable. There's a part of this where we have to say, okay, like, what do we hold, these truths that we want to hold to be self-evident, so to speak, what are they? So there's always a chance. There's always a choice. There's always an opportunity. There's always a prayer. There's always a paradigm shift. Like, for example, to each their own. I'm not called to it, but for example, I've told the example before of a person that I tried to help and give money on the street before, and all he had was a sign up that said, that he loved the Most High, and that the Most High wants us to love each other. I tried to give him some money for food. He said, and he quoted Yahshua. He said, "My meat comes from following the will of the Father, who sent me." And I tried to give him the money. He didn't want it. He was like, and I could tell, like, he might have been fasting, but I could tell he was hungry. And he's considered it, but he was like, "No, I'm just here doing the will of the Father." And so the Father had told him, hold the sign. And who knows, that might be something that he tells me to do at some point in my life. I don't know. You got to be obedient to whatever he says. But he helped me in that message for the rest of my life. He helped me realize, man, homeless, depressed, frustrated, angry, etc. He was like, he showed me that there's nothing that is a bad situation for me as long as it's the will of the Father. Like, that showed me straight up. And so since then, like I've told you guys, October, November, and then we kind of start doing better as a family in December. But October, November for us usually financially are kind of hard for us, especially the last few years where we've just outright said, okay, we're just going to follow Yah's will and see what he says do. And so I have bills just like everybody else does and stuff like that. I might have less, but I still have bills just like everybody else does. However, like, I've learned through being homeless, I've learned from doing the single father thing with 3 children, them having to share a bedroom, and I'm sleeping actually wasn't even the couch at one point until somebody gave us a couch, sleeping on the floor, hoping that the mattress would stay inflated long enough. But usually would just wake up on the floor, sometimes not even use the mattress, because what was the point? I learned a lot from being on the 4th floor, of a hospital, being in a place where they said you were insane and crazy. I've learned a lot from seeing people who were resilient no matter what. I learned a lot from watching people who were so busy telling me how I need to get my life together because I didn't have as much financially as they did, but I watched them drown year after year, day after day, time after time, because they couldn't treat their spouse with respect. And so they kept losing, things that were more important than money, like marriage and respect to their children, and losing positions in their job because they couldn't be diligent as far as making sure that they ate correctly, and they couldn't therefore, just make sure that their diabetes was stayed back. Like, I learned a lot watching a lot of those people and realizing that discipline in Yah is always going to be more important than all the other stuff. Every day, all time, 7 times a day, 20 times on Sunday, as they would say, right? But anyway, so we usually go long. Holy Spirit is pretty much telling me it's time to wrap it up. I thank you guys for being on today. I really do. We'll see you guys. We should be back tonight at 8 p.m. on Kofi_42. And we should see you guys for SOC workout at 6 a.m. Eastern tomorrow. Early Rise of Bible Study at 6:30 a.m. Eastern New York time tomorrow. And then 8 a.m. Eastern New York time tomorrow to be on the live session to get back into Psalm 128. But we thank you guys. We appreciate you. There were a couple people that asked some questions. If you want to send me some questions, and we'll get into them. We'll try to bring them up tomorrow. Thank you all again. We appreciate you, whether you watch us on Facebook, TikTok, or YouTube. We appreciate you guys taking time out to be with us. You know you don't have to. Those who send gifts, love, things you do behind the scene, words of encouragement, texts, or doing coaching with us, do schooling with us, do all types of stuff, are really diving into your call to help us to grow as a community. We appreciate you. I guess this week coming up too, this Friday is going to be the first Friday of the month. So every first Friday of the month, we ask people to be prepared to go out into community and do something to bless people. So we don't want to just talk this. We want to walk this as well. You don't have to tell us what you did. You don't have to tell us what you spent on. You have to tell us who you were led to. We just ask that you go out and be a blessing to somebody as well. So thank you for being on. Hello, Shima. If I didn't say hello earlier, I'm not sure if I did. And hello, Drea. I don't know if I said it earlier or not. But thank you for being on. We appreciate you. We honor you guys, and we look forward to talking to you. Please remember, check out my wife, the Honorable Maya, on TikTok, YouTube, her website, and Pinterest at Bloom and Flourish, not A&D, the letter N, Bloom and Flourish. She is a healer, herbalist, chemist, and biologist by degree. And we thank you guys so much for helping her to make sure that the diaspora is benefited. The tincture of the month is still pain-free. So if you like that tincture, or if you're looking for some other tincture, some other natural medicine to help you out, let us know. We honor you guys. We look forward to you guys doing great things, continue to move in what the Most High has for you. And we are excited to continue to go through this series. So we'll be back on track. We'll hit up Psalm 128 tomorrow, I believe, and which is our 9th step out of the 15 steps. And we'll continue to go forward. And those who had some questions that I saw you might have texted or emailed, we'll make sure that we try to hit those in the beginning, and then we'll keep on moving. Oh, wow. Thank you, big brother Vincent. Appreciate you. So we thank you. We appreciate you. I showed you guys the materials, and for the fringes, not for the fringes, for the tassels. So if you're interested in those, I'll just do a basic one, but we can have them in. I was going to do them in a bunch of different colors and stuff to show you guys, I guess, what they look like. But I could pretty much do whatever color combination you guys are interested in. So, but you'll see them tomorrow, maybe even tonight, for those who come on later this evening. And we'll try to put it on Patreon as well, just in case you missed tonight. So we thank you, we honor you, and we lift you up. We appreciate you. Take care of yourselves. Remember your affirmations, Romans 8:1, 8:11, 8:18, 8:19, 8:28. And please take care of yourselves. And as always, family, and be safe, by the way. Some of you who are traveling, Thanksgiving, Holy Day and all that, please be safe on your travels. Make sure that you make it back safely. We appreciate you. And as always, this has been Pastor Kofi, Pastor Servant of Christ, where we are always changing lives one mind at a time by being a voice of the voiceless and speaking the unspoken, until I have the great privilege, opportunity, and responsibility of being in front of you all again. Please remember, as always, just love, that you are loved, you're necessary, you're majestic, you're fearfully, wonderfully made, and you, which is all of us working together, will be the reason why people who are in the system no longer have to be of it. Shalom, family. Take care.